Ancient Japan's enigmas, whispers from the past. In the shadowed folds of Japan's ancient mountains and mist-covered valleys, secrets slumber beneath centuries of silence. They whisper through the bamboo forests, etched in half-erased scrolls and carved into stones no one remembers placing. These aren't just legends, they are fragments of something real, something lost. Why do sacred shrines appear in places no path leads to? Who built the megalithic formations that modern tools can't explain? And what of the Yamabushi, the mountain monks said to bend nature to their will? Were they simply spiritual seekers or something more? From eerie folk tales rooted in forgotten rituals to archaeological enigmas that defy conventional history, the mysteries of ancient Japan aren't content to rest in the past. They wait for the curious, the quiet-hearted, the sleepless. So as light fades, the world hushes. Let your mind drift through shadowed temples and silent forests, across time-worn stones, and into the breath of legends. So sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into the unknown. The Kofun tombs, keyholes to a buried history Japan. Just after dawn, the morning mist drifts low across the plains of Kanai, curling like ancient breath over emerald rice fields. In the distance, a peculiar shape rises from the earth. Not a hill, but a monument, man-made, massive, silent. From above, the design is unmistakable, a perfect keyhole formed by a circle joined to a triangle. These are the Kofun tombs, ancient burial mounds dating back over 1,600 years. Scattered across the Japanese archipelago, they are some of the largest earthworks in human history, and yet very few outside of Japan have heard of them. Fewer still have seen inside. There are over 160,000 Kofun in Japan, but the most mysterious, those that draw the tightest veil of secrecy, are the keyhole-shaped tombs of emperors and elite rulers built during the Kofun period between the 3rd and 7th centuries AD. Among them, the Daisen Kofun in Osaka stands as the crown. At over 1,500 feet in length, it is longer than the Great Pyramid of Giza's tall, rivaling even the tombs of ancient Egypt in scale. But unlike Giza, the Daisen Kofun is not open to the public. It is not excavated, explored, or even officially discussed in depth. Why? Because it is considered sacred ground, imperial ground, and the Japanese Imperial Household Agency has long deemed these tombs off-limits, citing respect for imperial ancestors and tradition. The official story is clear. These mounds are the resting places of early Japanese emperors, possibly including Emperor Nintoku, for whom the Daisen Kofun is named. The tombs were constructed by laborers and artisans over years, even decades, and were intended as eternal resting places for powerful rulers of the Yamato dynasty. The lineage that, according to imperial mythology, traces back to the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. But what lies inside them remains mostly a matter of speculation. There have been some exceptions. Smaller Kofun, not officially linked to the imperial family, have been excavated. Inside, archaeologists found burial chambers lined with stone, rich grave goods, bronze mirrors, iron weapons, and Haniwa ceramic figurines of people, animals, and buildings placed around the mountain. These give us a glimpse into the customs and worldview of the time. Yet the keyhole-shaped tombs, the largest, the most elaborate, remain sealed. And so the questions persist. Why does the Imperial Household Agency so strictly prohibit archaeological access to these tombs, even by Japan's own scientists? Is it solely a matter of respect? Or could there be something deeper, something that might challenge the official historical narrative? Some researchers quietly wonder whether these tombs may hold evidence of cultural connections far beyond what is currently accepted. Certain features, such as the massive stones used in construction and the ceremonial items buried within, bear uncanny similarities to practices in ancient Korea and China. Others have even noted structural parallels with tombs found as far away as Central Asia. Could these tombs reflect a more complex and cosmopolitan early Japan, shaped not only by native traditions, but by waves of migration, conquest, or cross-cultural exchange? Then there are the more controversial theories. A few independent researchers have pointed to the extraordinary precision of the keyhole shapes, perfectly symmetrical, visible only from the sky, and asked whether ancient builders possessed knowledge of aerial surveying or mathematical techniques beyond what we assume. Others have speculated that the layout of the Kofun, when plotted on a map, reflects patterns or alignments not yet fully understood, possibly even astronomical or symbolic. More fringe theorists go further, suggesting the tombs hide not just royal remains, but lost knowledge, ancient texts, unknown artifacts, or relics from an era predating written history. These ideas are often dismissed by academia, but in the absence of direct exploration, the mystery grows. Even the symbolism of the keyhole shape itself remains debated. What did it mean to the people who built these monuments? Was it a gateway, an opening between worlds, symbolizing the passage from life into death? Or perhaps from the mortal to the divine? Or was it a marker meant to be seen by the gods, or something else from above? To date, no non-imperial excavations have been allowed on the major Kofun sites. The few studies that have taken place relied on non-invasive technologies, ground-penetrating radar, aerial photography, and satellite imaging. These offer glimpses but not answers. In 2019, a slight shift occurred. The Japanese government allowed a limited investigation around the Daisen Kofun in preparation for its nomination as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Researchers carefully mapped the perimeter and confirmed that the tomb was indeed constructed in the 5th century, consistent with traditional accounts. But the inner chamber? Still sealed, still sacred. It's a rare case in modern archaeology, a treasure hidden in plain sight, yet out of reach, not because of physical danger, but cultural restriction. So we are left with silence, broken only by the wind that moves over the mounds and the sound of birds circling above. What lies beneath these ancient keyholes? The bones of emperors, the remnants of a forgotten civilization, or just the enduring weight of national memory? The truth remains buried, and perhaps that's the point. In a world where so much is uncovered, measured, and explained, the Kofun tombs remain deliberately unknowable, monuments not just to the dead, but to the enduring power of mystery itself. For now, we wait and we wonder. Would you like the next segment to explore a specific tomb, or perhaps focus on the Haniwa figurines found around these mounds? The tombs remain undisturbed. The grass sways gently over their silent forms, as if nature itself were guarding something it cannot name. And as we leave behind those massive keyhole-shaped mysteries, we follow the invisible thread of Japan's ancient past, not into the earth, but into legend, into the realm of myth-made matter. The Imperial Regalia, unseen symbols of divine power. A story that has endured for centuries yet offers no proof, no photographs, no certain location, only 3 names: a mirror, a sword, a jewel. They are called Sanshu no Jingi, the 3 sacred treasures of Japan, said to be the Imperial Regalia passed down from the gods to the first Emperor Jimmu over 2.5 millennia ago. Not mere symbols of power, but physical objects that still, to this day, define imperial legitimacy. And yet no one outside the inner court has seen them. Not directly, not clearly, not confirmed. The mirror is called Yata no Kagami, the sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the jewel Yasakani no Magatama. Each one is said to represent a vital human quality: wisdom, valor, and benevolence. But are they real? If so, where are they? The most commonly accepted answer is this: the mirror is enshrined at the Grand Shrine of Ise, hidden deep within the sacred inner sanctum. The sword rests at Atsuta Shrine in Nagoya, and the jewel lies within the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. This is what is taught, this is what tradition says, but no independent scholar or outside observer has verified these claims. Photographs are forbidden, access is denied. Even high-ranking Shinto priests are not permitted to handle the objects directly. In fact, during the imperial enthronement ceremony, the rare event where all 3 treasures are ceremonially presented to the new emperor, what is seen are not the treasures themselves, but silk-wrapped boxes. No one speaks of their contents, so the question lingers: are these the original items passed down through generations of emperors? Or are they symbolic replicas meant to preserve a ritual without revealing what may no longer exist? The origins of the 3 treasures lie within Kojiki and Nihonshoki, Japan's oldest mytho-historical texts. According to these sources, the sun goddess Amaterasu, upon sending her grandson Ninigi to Earth to establish the imperial line, gifted him these treasures: the mirror to reflect truth, the sword to protect, and the jewel to unify. The mirror is perhaps the most sacred. It is tied directly to Amaterasu herself, who was once lured out of her cave using the mirror's brilliant reflection. Even today, it is believed that the Yata no Kagami remains housed at the East Grand Shrine, a location so sacred that its central shrine is rebuilt every 20 years to honor ritual renewal. But what lies within the inner sanctum, hidden behind layers of cypress wood and white gravel paths, is not known. Pilgrims can approach the outer gates. They can bow, but the mirror itself is never seen. The sword Kusanagi no Tsurugi, literally grass-cutting sword, holds its own legend. It was found in the tail of an 8-headed serpent slain by the storm god Susanoo. Some say it was gifted to Yamato Takeru, a warrior prince who used it to control the wind and survive a plot to burn him alive. That sword is now said to reside at Atsuta Shrine. But there is a wrinkle. In 1185, during the Genpei War, the sword was reportedly lost at sea during the naval battle of Dan no Ura, when the child emperor Antoku drowned, taking the treasures with him. According to some accounts, a duplicate sword was forged and installed in the shrine thereafter. Other sources say the sword was recovered by divers, or even miraculously returned. But which story is true? The shrine has never allowed academic examination of the artifact said to be Kusanagi. Its identity remains unproven. And then there is the jewel, the Yasakani no Magatama, a kama-shaped bead of curved stone or crystal. These magatama were used in prehistoric Japan and often found in burial mounds, signifying elite or shamanic status. The sacred jewel of the regalia is said to have extraordinary size and clarity and represents benevolence, the unifying force of the people. It is the only object whose presence has been acknowledged inside the imperial palace. But again, no images, no public viewing. It is a national treasure that lives entirely behind veils. With these uncertainties, speculation thrives. Some historians suggest the regalia may have been destroyed or lost centuries ago, perhaps during one of the many fires that ravaged Kyoto or during the chaotic Sengoku period. Others believe the items were replicated and the originals hidden in secret locations, protected from war, theft, or political manipulation. There are even whispers that one or more of the objects may not be of terrestrial origin, a theory that finds support among fringe researchers who believe in ancient contact with non-human intelligence. But without evidence, these ideas drift at the edge of belief. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not whether the treasures exist, but why the secrecy persists. What does it mean for a nation's most sacred symbols to remain unseen? Are they too holy, too powerful, or simply too fragile for modern eyes? And if they were to be revealed, if the mirror, sword, and jewel were shown to the world, what would they truly tell us? Would they be relics of divine myth, or artifacts of a once mortal past now deified through memory? The truth, for now, remains sealed behind shrine gates and imperial walls. And so, like a story told in the dark, the legend of the 3 sacred treasures continues to flicker just out of reach. Would you like the next section to explore another mythic site like the underwater ruins of Yonaguni, or the aesthetic practices of the Yamabushi? Himiko and Yamatai, the vanished queen and her kingdom. Legends fade like mist, and some vanish into silence, hidden behind locked shrines and forbidden scrolls. As we leave behind the veiled legacy of Japan's Imperial Regalia, we travel even deeper into the mists of time to a queen without a face, a kingdom without a known location, and a story told not by Japan itself, but by voices from across the sea. Somewhere in the heart of ancient Japan, there may once have been a kingdom ruled not by a warlord, but by a priestess. Her name was Himiko, a name both whispered and disputed for centuries, and her domain, the elusive land of Yamatai, remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles in Japanese history. No ruins have been definitively found. No monuments bear her image, and yet she appears clearly, strikingly, in the oldest written account of Japan, not from Japanese sources, but from the 3rd century Chinese chronicle Wager, part of the records of the 3 kingdoms. There a curious description emerges. It speaks of a land across the sea called Wa by the Chinese, inhabited by hundreds of small chiefdoms, fractured and in chaos. That is, until a woman named Himiko rose to power. She was not just a ruler, but a shaman, said to commune with the spirits, controlling her realm through ritual and mystery. The Chronicle says she lived in a fortified palace surrounded by servants and protected by guards. No man was allowed to see her, except one intermediary, and when she died, her people are said to have built a massive tomb over 100 paces wide and buried her with honor. The story reads more like legend than history, but for centuries, scholars have debated who was Himiko, where was Yamatai, and why does she not appear in Japan's earliest native records, Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, written 4 centuries later. Some believe her exclusion was intentional, a rewriting of history to erase a lineage that did not fit the emerging Yamato state's imperial narrative. Others argue that she was remembered under a different name, perhaps as Empress Jingu, a semi-mythical figure whose conquest of Korea appears in Japanese texts, but nowhere in Korean or Chinese records. Still, the question persists. Where was the kingdom of Yamatai? 2 main theories dominate. The northern Kyushu theory places Yamatai in the western island of Kyushu, close to the Korean peninsula, an area with early contact with the continent, trade, and evidence of complex society. It aligns geographically with the journey described in the Wager, which lists stops and distances from the Korean coast to Himiko's realm. But others believe Yamatai was farther inland, in the Kinki region near present-day Nara, an area later dominated by the Yamato court and filled with the massive Kofun tombs we explored earlier. Archaeological findings here suggest a rich, organized polity capable of monumental building, complex rituals, and political centralization. Yet no discovery has conclusively answered the question. In Kyushu, we find ancient settlements, but none that clearly match the grandeur described. In Nara, we find the right scale, but the journey mapped in Chinese records seems to lead elsewhere. Could it be that both theories are partially true? That Himiko's rule began in Kyushu, but her spiritual or cultural influence stretched inland, forming the seed of what would later become the Yamato state? Then there are stranger interpretations. Some fringe researchers suggest that Himiko's powers as a shamaness were not metaphorical but literal, that her ability to command obedience through ritual implied the use of trance states, natural psychedelics, or advanced understanding of human psychology. Others go further, speculating that she belonged to a matriarchal priesthood whose roots reach far deeper into Japan's prehistory, possibly linked to Jomon spiritual practices or even earlier undocumented traditions. Still others focus on the tomb. If the Chinese records are correct, the tomb of Himiko must have been vast, comparable to the Great Kofun mounds. Some point to the Hashihaka Kofun, one of the oldest keyhole tombs, as a possible candidate located in Nara. It is traditionally associated with Princess Yamato Totohi Momoso, another mysterious female figure, but the scale, age, and centrality of the site suggests it may in fact have been repurposed or reattributed over time. And yet the Hashihaka Kofun, like the other imperial tombs, remains officially sealed. No excavation has confirmed what lies within. What might we learn if it were ever open? Would it reveal the grave of a forgotten queen, a cache of early writing, evidence of foreign contact, or something more enigmatic, something that challenges the story Japan has told itself about its own beginnings? For now, we rely on fragments, pottery shards, bronze mirrors, weapons, burial mounds, ancient texts translated across cultures and centuries. None of it quite fits together, and yet it all seems to orbit this central enigma, a woman shrouded in ritual, whose name was known across the sea, but who vanished from her own land's memory. Why? Was it fear of her spiritual authority? Was she a rival to the male-centered Yamato power structure that would later consolidate control? Or was her kingdom simply absorbed, rewritten into a new story, her legacy scattered like ashes into myth? We may never know. But in the quiet fields of Nara, in the forested valleys of Kyushu, and in the minds of those still seeking her, the echo of Queen Himiko lingers, soft, uncertain, unclaimed. Perhaps she is not meant to be found, or perhaps we have been looking in the wrong place all along. Would you like the next segment to follow the ancient trail of Yamabushi mountain monks, or explore the mysterious underwater ruins near Yonaguni? Mount Tsurugi's secret, pyramids in the peaks? The story of Queen Himiko ends, as so many ancient tales do, in silence, in an unmarked tomb, in a forgotten kingdom, in the gaps between myth and memory. But just as one trail fades, another begins to emerge from the mist. This time, not in the plains or coastal waters, but high among the sacred peaks of Shikoku. There, rising above a sea of clouds and cedar-covered slopes, stands Mount Tsurugi. The name means Sword Mountain, and it cuts a jagged silhouette against the sky, sharp, steep, and storied. At over 1,250 meters, it's one of Japan's most revered peaks, long considered sacred by ascetics, pilgrims, and seekers. Its forests are thick, its trails quiet, its summit wrapped in mist, even on clear days. But it is what might lie beneath the surface that has fascinated explorers and theorists for decades. In the early 20th century, whispers began to circulate, claims that deep within the mountain, buried under centuries of stone and soil, were man-made structures, pyramidal, geometric, unmistakably artificial. Could there truly be pyramids hidden inside Mount Tsurugi? It's a question that first gained traction in the 1930s when a team of researchers led by a man named Taka Saito began an excavation of the mountain. Driven by local legends and unusual rock formations, they believed that an ancient underground complex might be hidden beneath the surface. Over the years, the team reportedly found large stone chambers, mysterious passageways, and even what they described as a stone staircase hewn into the mountain with unnatural precision. Some claim the layout resembled a stepped pyramid, similar in form to those found in Mesoamerica or ancient Mesopotamia. Others describe narrow tunnels blocked by massive stones that seemed too precisely placed to be natural. But then the dig stopped and silence followed. Officially, the reason was structural danger, risk of collapse. The area was sealed and permits were never renewed. But unofficially, speculation bloomed. Why was the project halted? Was it simply a matter of safety? Or did the researchers find something they were not meant to? Some suggested the discovery of unusual artifacts, metal tools, ceremonial objects, or even inscriptions, none of which were ever verified or publicly displayed. Others spoke of strange phenomena within the mountain, shifts in magnetic fields, disorientation, or even a deep mechanical humming sound. From these fragments, more elaborate theories began to grow. One hypothesis posits that Mount Tsurugi was once the site of a lost ancient civilization predating known Japanese history, capable of monumental construction. Some point to the Gomen people, who inhabited Japan as far back as 14,000 BCE, and whose advanced pottery and spiritual artifacts suggest a culture far more sophisticated than previously believed. Could remnants of a Jomon-era megalithic society lie hidden within the mountain? More speculative voices go further. Some connect Mount Tsurugi to the lost Ark of the Covenant, drawing from an obscure theory that early Jewish tribes fleeing persecution may have traveled east, embedding their relics in distant lands. This idea, largely dismissed by scholars, links the sword in the mountain's name to biblical metaphor and claims the mysterious underground structure might be a protective chamber for a sacred object. Others, tracing the mountain's strange energy and geometric alignments, speculate about extraterrestrial contact, suggesting that the mountain itself may have been altered or constructed to encode cosmic knowledge in alignment with ley lines or celestial paths. But amid the more dramatic theories, one simple, enduring fact remains. There is something beneath Mount Tsurugi that has not yet been fully explained. Geologists have acknowledged that the mountain contains highly unusual formations, angular stone placements, unnatural symmetry, and voids within the rock that suggest cavities or chambers. These could, of course, be natural geological anomalies. Japan is, after all, a land shaped by tectonic upheaval and volcanic transformation. And yet the symmetry, the precision, the silence. Local folklore adds another layer to the mystery. Shikoku has long been home to Yamabushi, mountain ascetics who practice shugendo, blending Buddhism, Shinto, and folk animism. These monks believe the mountain to be a gateway between the worlds of the living and the dead, a place of visions, trials, and spiritual testing. Could their rituals, handed down across centuries, have originated in response to something older? Something built? Then there is the name Tsurugi, or sword. In Japanese mythology, swords are more than weapons. They are sacred instruments of divine power. Could the mountain itself be named for a legendary blade, perhaps even linked to Kusanagi, the lost sword of the Imperial Regalia? We may never know. Today, Mount Tsurugi is a popular destination for hikers and spiritual seekers. The summit offers wide views of the surrounding ranges, and in summer, wildflowers bloom across the ridgelines. But few who walk its trails realize that deep beneath their feet lie corridors of questions. What lies buried inside Mount Tsurugi? A natural curiosity, a forgotten civilization, or a truth we are not yet ready to face? The mountain does not answer. It stands as it has for millennia, watchful, wordless, waiting. And in its shadow, the mystery deepens. Would you like the next segment to descend beneath the waves to explore the Yonaguni underwater monument? Masuda no Iwafuni, the enigmatic rock ship. From the shadowed corridors of Mount Tsurugi, where speculation and silence seem to intertwine beneath the earth, we now move to a quieter landscape, gentler, sunlit, but no less enigmatic. Here in the village of Asuka in Nara Prefecture, the hills roll softly under wide skies, dotted with rice fields, ancient stones, and the remnants of a kingdom long vanished. This was once the seat of power during Japan's Asuka period, more than 1,400 years ago, a time when Buddhism arrived, political systems shifted, and monumental changes swept across the archipelago. But amid the imperial ruins and burial mounds lies something far older, something stranger. Carved into the bedrock of a low hill, it sits alone, massive, geometric, and eerily precise. This is the Masuda no Iwafune, the rock ship of Masuda, a name that evokes movement, though the stone has never moved. It is nearly 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and over 4 meters tall, an immense granite monolith weighing an estimated 800 tons. And no one knows why it was made. From a distance, it looks like a ship run aground, a squat vessel of stone with sharply defined lines and a large rectangular depression carved cleanly into its flat top. 2 square holes cut deep into the surface, perfectly measured, empty. There is no inscription, no written record, no shrine or altar nearby. The stone offers no explanation for its own existence, and yet it was clearly not formed by nature. Who carved it? When? And more importantly, why? The Masuda no Iwafune defies easy classification. Unlike the Kofun tombs, it is not buried. Unlike Buddhist stoneworks, it bears no image, no deity, no trace of religious symbolism. Its sharp angles and flat surfaces suggest tools of precision, tools capable of removing entire tons of granite with astonishing care. But in the 6th or 7th century, what civilization in Japan possessed such techniques, and for what purpose? Some scholars believe the monolith was left unfinished, that it was part of a construction project, perhaps a tomb or the foundation of a ritual structure that was suddenly abandoned. Yet the shape seems too refined, too deliberate for something incomplete. There is nothing crude about its lines, nothing makeshift about its form. Others suggest it may have had astronomical significance. The Masuda no Iwafune faces due west, a detail some researchers believe is linked to solstice alignments. The 2 square holes on its top may have held wooden posts, sighting devices, or ceremonial markers aligned with the sun or stars. In a time before written records, might this have been a kind of observatory or a solar calendar carved into the very landscape? It is a tempting theory, but it remains speculative. Then there is the question of the name, rock ship. The earliest written references to the site use this term, though no explanation is given. Did ancient locals imagine the stone as a vessel to the gods, a symbolic reminder of passage to the afterlife? Or is it a poetic memory of some older, now lost myth? Here the fringe theories begin to take root. Some see in the Masuda no Iwafune echoes of other megalithic sites around the world, from Machu Picchu to Baalbek, where stones of incredible size were shaped with inexplicable skill. Is it possible, they ask, that an advanced proto-civilization once flourished in prehistoric Japan, one capable of manipulating stone on a massive scale? Others wonder if the structure served as a kind of earth anchor designed to harness energy, part of a now forgotten spiritual science that saw the land as alive and interconnected. a grid of energy lines converging at sacred sites. This idea, while lacking in mainstream support, persists among alternative historians who view Masuda no Iwafune as a deliberate node in a much larger, hidden network of ancient power. Still more speculative are those who claim the monolith was not carved from the earth but placed into it, a technological artifact, they suggest, misunderstood, misdated, and misinterpreted. Though such ideas are rarely entertained by archaeology, the mystery remains. No definitive explanation, no clear context, no answers. Only the stone itself, silent, immovable. It's worth noting that the Asuka region contains several other enigmatic stoneworks, scattered boulders carved into unusual forms, such as the Ishibutai Kofun, a massive stone chamber whose roof weighs over 70 tons. These works suggest that ancient Asuka had both the tools and the will to shape stone in ways that still inspire awe. But none are quite like Masuda no Iwafune. None so abstract, none so deliberately isolated. Why build such a thing atop a low hill in a village far from the imperial centers? Why invest the immense labor, hundreds, perhaps thousands of hours, into a stone that serves no apparent function? Was it a ceremonial platform, a celestial marker, a monument to a forgotten belief system now erased by time and empire? Or is it simply what remains when a culture's meanings are lost, and all that survives is the form, enduring but unknowable? The Masuda no Iwafune does not offer its secrets easily. It does not tell us what it once was or what it might still be. It simply is, cut from the earth, shaped by hands long vanished, left for us to wonder over in quiet and in sleep. In its silence, it invites only one thing, the question, what truth still rests in stone, waiting to be remembered? Would you like the next segment to explore the submerged mystery of the Yonaguni Monument? Or delve into the forest-hidden relics of the Shugendo mountain monks? The Yonaguni Monument, Atlantis of Japan? From the windswept highlands of Asuka, where a ship-shaped stone defies explanation atop a grassy hill, our journey now takes a quieter turn, below the waves. Here, far to the south, off the edge of Japan's island chain, something vast sleeps beneath the sea. Yonaguni is Japan's westernmost inhabited island, rugged and remote. It lies closer to Taiwan than to Tokyo, battered by Pacific winds and framed by coral reefs. Its rocky cliffs fall sharply into waters of striking clarity, where currents churn and the sea teems with hammerhead sharks migrating in great schools each winter. But 25 meters below the surface, just off the southern coast, there is something else, massive, angular, and out of place. Something that looks at first glance like the ruins of a forgotten world. This is the Yonaguni Monument. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver, what appeared to be a natural rock formation soon sparked one of the most enduring archaeological debates of modern times. Imagine descending through clear blue water as shapes begin to emerge through the haze, a massive series of flat stone platforms, broad steps, and sharp right-angled corners, all carved into a sandstone seafloor. The structure is immense, over 150 meters long and rising 25 meters from the ocean bed. Divers have described wide terraces, narrow passageways, and even what resembles a grand staircase ascending to nowhere. But this is not a crumbled ruin. It is eerily intact. Its lines are sharp, its walls are straight, its geometry is more precise than nature usually allows. Is it possible that this is a man-made structure, an ancient temple or fortress submerged by the sea? That's the question that has divided scientists, divers, and historians for nearly 4 decades. On one side, mainstream geologists argue that the Yonaguni Monument is a natural formation, part of a region of sandstone known for fracturing cleanly along bedding planes and joints. Earthquakes, wave erosion, and the constant pressure of tectonic movement, they say, are sufficient to create such angular features. To the trained eye, these experts explain, the steps and platforms are natural, the sharp lines are coincidental, the features that look carved are merely the product of countless millennia of geologic forces. But not everyone agrees. The monument's most vocal proponent, marine geologist Professor Masaki Kimura, spent decades surveying the site. He argues that the structure shows clear evidence of human modification. Tool marks, arranged stones, what he believes to be carved symbols, and even the remnants of stone roads or retaining walls extending beyond the main platform. He has identified what he believes are distinct features: a main terrace, a ceremonial platform, and even a basin that may have served as a water reservoir or ritual site. Other divers have claimed to see megalithic face-like carvings, upright pillars, and what could be a large arch or entryway. And then there's the question of timing. If the Yonaguni monument were man-made, it would have been built over 10,000 years ago, when sea levels were dramatically lower and the structure would have been on dry land. That places its possible construction well before the known rise of advanced civilizations, before Mesopotamia, before the pyramids, before written history. Could there have been a forgotten culture in what is now southern Japan capable of shaping stone at such a scale during the last ice age? The idea challenges conventional timelines, yet we know that early seafaring peoples were more mobile than once thought. We know that the Jomon people, who lived in Japan as early as 14,000 BCE, built complex structures and made finely detailed pottery. Could they, or an even earlier culture, have left behind this massive signature in stone? Some have dubbed Yonaguni Japan's Atlantis, a submerged city, a sunken shrine, a lost civilization erased by rising seas. It's an idea that captivates the imagination, one that has drawn comparisons to submerged ruins off the coasts of India, Malta, and Cuba. And yet, no definitive artifacts have been recovered, no tools, no bones, no inscriptions, nothing that clearly confirms human hands once worked these stones. But the questions persist. Why is the geometry so exact? Why do the terraces and steps seem to follow a coherent design rather than random erosion? Why do similar structures not exist nearby, above sea level, where they might be easier to examine? The currents around Yonaguni are strong, and visibility can be low. Divers must navigate sharp corners, swift changes in depth, and surging tides. It's a difficult site to explore, and nearly impossible to study at length. In some ways, the monument seems to protect its own mystery, revealing only glimpses through murky water and brief dives. Even among those who remain skeptical of its artificial origin, there is an acknowledgement. The site is unusual. It challenges our assumptions. It reminds us that in a world mapped by satellites and scanned by sonar, mysteries still lie beneath the surface, hidden not in jungles or deserts, but just offshore in the deep blue silence. And so the monument rests, not forgotten, but unanswered. Whether natural wonder or lost architecture, it stands as a marker of our limits, of how much we know and how much we still hope to find. What else sleeps beneath the waves, waiting for the tides of time to shift once more? Would you like the next segment to explore the hidden world of the Yamabushi mountain monks and their secret rituals in Japan's sacred peaks? The Utsurobuni, a mysterious visitor from the sea beneath the waves of Yonaguni, we glimpsed what may be the stone bones of a forgotten past, etched in silence and mystery. Now we drift gently forward in time, but not entirely back to certainty. For even in the relatively recent history of Japan, the unexplained finds its way ashore, carried not by tectonic force or ancient hands, but by the tide itself. It is the year 1803. Along the eastern coast of Japan, in the province of Hitachi, modern-day Ibaraki Prefecture, the waves break gently against the black sand beaches. Fishermen accustomed to the rhythms of the sea glance toward the horizon and notice something strange. A vessel drifting silently toward shore, but not like any they had seen before. What they found would become known as the Utsurobune, literally the hollow ship, and what it contained remains one of the most peculiar, perplexing stories in Japanese folklore and maritime history. According to multiple texts from the Edo period, such as the Toen Shosetsu, Ume Nuari, and Hayari Kishu, the strange craft was discovered on the beach of Haratonohama, near the town of Owarai. It was described as a circular, dome-shaped boat, approximately 3.5 meters tall and over 5 meters wide. Its upper half was said to be made of a smooth, metallic material, glinting in the sun. The lower portion appeared reinforced with wooden slats, sealed with tar or sap to keep out water. Windows or openings of some kind, either glass or crystal, encircled the dome. but they were difficult to see through. Some accounts describe intricate symbols etched along the hull in an unfamiliar script that none present could read. Inside the craft, seated quietly, was a young woman. She was described as unusually beautiful, with pale skin, red or golden hair, and strange clothing, unlike anything worn in Japan. She spoke a language no one understood and clutched tightly to a small, box-like object, never letting it out of her hands even for a moment. When asked through gestures what the box contained, she shook her head. She would not part with it. She would not explain. The villagers, unsure what to make of this encounter, brought her and the vessel to a local official. After deliberation and uncertain whether she was a castaway, a spy, or something else entirely, they returned her and the craft to the sea, allowing the tide to carry her away once more. This is where the story ends. No follow-up, no rediscovery, just a brief appearance, like something out of a dream, recorded in multiple sources and then lost to time. But what exactly was the Utsurobune? The official explanation, and one held by many scholars, is that the woman was a foreign castaway, possibly Russian or European, adrift in Japanese waters at a time when the country was under strict isolationist policies known as sakoku. Her vessel may have been a lifeboat or escape pod of some kind. The box she held could have contained religious artifacts, personal effects, or items considered sacred or private. The Utsurobune, in this interpretation, is a tale of xenophobia and mystery, where an outsider, unable to communicate and holding on to the only remnants of her past, is sent back to the sea by a society wary of the unknown. And yet, certain elements complicate that narrative. The vessel's structure is peculiar. Its shape, a metallic disc-like craft with crystal windows, bears more than a passing resemblance to modern descriptions of unidentified flying objects. The woman's unfamiliar language, the odd script on the craft's exterior, and the glowing interior described in some versions have led more speculative researchers to suggest that the Utsurobune may not have been of this earth at all. Could it have been an early sighting of an alien visitation, long before the modern era of UFO encounters? Some ufologists argue that the story's consistency across multiple documents gives it unusual credibility. Others highlight the cultural context. Edo period Japan was deeply isolated, yet the account shows remarkable detail and restraint, lacking the fantastical embellishments that often accompany myth. Still others offer a different possibility, that the story is allegorical, a warning or moral tale hidden in historical clothing. Perhaps a commentary on fear of the foreign or the fragility of the human condition in the face of the unknown. In this reading, the box the woman held could symbolize memory, loss, or even truth, something she could not share, yet could never release. Yet the records remain curiously unemotional. The tone is clinical, observational, as if the writers themselves weren't sure what they had heard. The accounts do not treat the event as a fable or cautionary tale, but as a matter-of-fact strange, certainly, but real. And so the hollow ship passes into legend, its origins unconfirmed, its purpose unclear. There is no evidence of the vessel itself, no remnants, no photographs, no preserved parts. Only the text remains, written in ink, bound in old paper, quietly waiting on dusty shelves of libraries and museums. Is it possible that a visitor truly arrived on Japan's shores in 1803, not from another nation, but from another world? Or was this simply an unknown woman, cast off by fate, mistaken for something more? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, lost in translation, suspended between history and myth. Whatever the case, the Utsurobune reminds us that not all mysteries wear the face of antiquity. Some drift toward us unexpectedly, strange and silent, and disappear again before we can ask the right questions. What if she returned someday? Or perhaps she never left at all? Would you like the next segment to follow the hidden trails of the Yamabushi monks? Or explore the spiritual legends of Japan's Killing Stone and its ties to ancient folklore? Dog. Clay. Figures from a distant past. The woman of the hollow ship vanished with the tide, her strange craft swallowed by the sea, and her silence left behind. But what if the impulse to create the unknown, mysterious beings, unreadable symbols, in impossible forms, did not drift ashore from distant lands, but instead rose from Japan's own deep past? Long before ships, before writing, before temples, there were figures, and they are still watching us. Scattered across the northern coasts and central plains of Japan, often unearthed in the soil of ancient middens or at the foot of forgotten hills, are small, intricately made clay figures. They are known as doge, and they come from the Jomon period, a prehistoric era that stretches back over 14,000 years, one of the oldest continuous cultures in human history. The doge are strange, deliberately so. They typically stand between 10 to 30 centimeters tall. Their bodies are stylized, some robust, others wiry, many marked with swirling patterns etched into the clay before firing. But it is the heads, and especially the eyes, that make them unforgettable. Enormous, goggle-like or almond-shaped faces, devoid of expression, framed by helmets or ornate headgear, with limbs that taper off or bulge unnaturally. They do not resemble animals. They do not clearly resemble humans, and they appear again and again across time and space, with no single purpose attached. So what were they? Mainstream archaeologists suggest that the doge were ritual objects. Many have been found broken intentionally, perhaps as part of ceremonies where the figurine was believed to absorb illness or misfortune before being discarded. Their exaggerated features, large hips, broad thighs, small waists, are thought to symbolize fertility or femininity, tying them to cycles of birth, death, and renewal. Others argue they were used in healing practices, functioning as sympathetic substitutes for the human body. If a person was ill, a dog could be crafted to represent them, then symbolically healed through gestures, scratches, or fire. But not all dogs fit this narrative. Some are androgynous, even genderless. Some appear to wear garments or armor. Others are formed with non-human features, slit-like mouths, elongated limbs, or surfaces covered in geometric designs that resemble modern circuitry more than ancient tattoos. The most famous among them, the so-called shakoki dogu, found primarily in eastern Japan, are particularly haunting. With their huge insect-like eyes and rounded, almost helmeted heads, they seem alien, literally. Their form has become iconic, not just within Japan but globally, as a focal point for mystery and speculation. Could these ancient figures be depictions of something not of this earth? That question, tentative, provocative, has fueled alternative theories for decades. Some fringe theorists propose that the doge are evidence of prehistoric contact with extraterrestrial visitors. They point to the goggle-like eyes and what appears to be sophisticated gear or armor as signs of beings wearing spacesuits. The stylized designs on their bodies are read by some as breathing apparatus, control panels, or flight mechanisms. Is it possible, they ask, that these figurines are not symbols, but memories, cultural impressions of a forgotten encounter? Others suggest the figures represent shamans in ritual dress, individuals who entered altered states of consciousness to commune with spirits, wearing elaborate costumes that set them apart from ordinary society. In this reading, the doge are visual echoes of spiritual transformation, half human, half otherworldly, capturing a reality seen through vision, trance, or dream. Still others place the doge within the context of Jomon spirituality, which was deeply animistic. Every stone, every tree, every mountain was believed to be alive with spirit, kami. Perhaps the doge are manifestations of these kami, guardians, intermediaries, not depictions of people at all, but entities in their own right, with a purpose and presence we no longer understand. And yet we find no writing, no temples, no clear lineage. The Jomon left behind no stone monuments, no cities, no great tombs, just pottery, some of the oldest in the world, and these enigmatic clay figures lying buried in the earth for thousands of years. Over 18,000 doge have been found to date, most in eastern and northern Honshu. Each region offers subtle variations in form, but none reveal the full story. None explain why the figures began appearing around 14,000 BCE, or why their production surged in the late Jomon period before mysteriously declining. What happened to the beliefs that shaped them? What rituals disappeared with the people who held them in their hands? Were they part of an oral mythology now lost? Or is their meaning still somehow embedded in Japan's modern folk traditions, hidden in plain sight? The dog do not answer. They endure. Some now rest in glass museum cases, under soft lights and quiet reverence. Others remain in private collections or archaeological archives, unstudied, unexamined. And some are surely still hidden in the soil, waiting for the right wave of earth to give them breath again. We are left with fragments, not just clay, but culture, memory, mystery. Why did the Jomon create these figures in such numbers, with such care, and with such strangeness? And if they were meant to communicate something, to others, to spirits, or even to us, have we already lost the key to understanding? In the end, the dog watch us as we watch them, silent, unmoving, unknowable. And maybe that is the message. Left by hands we'll never meet, in shapes we're only beginning to see. Would you like the next segment to explore the legends surrounding Sessho-seki, the killing stone of Nasu, and its ancient ties to Japanese mythology and yokai lore? Sokushinbutsu, the living mummies. As we leave behind the shadowy eyes of ancient clay, our journey now takes us to the heart of Japan's mountainous regions, where the mysterious intertwines with the realm of life and death in a practice so extreme, it defies modern understanding. This is a story of devotion, a devotion so deep, so consuming that it bridges the divide between life and the afterlife itself. A tale of self-discipline so profound that it transformed human bodies into something immortal, something untouched by time. Nestled in the remote mountains of Yamagata Prefecture, Japan, lies a forgotten tradition known as Sokushinbutsu, the art of becoming a living mummy. This ancient practice, shrouded in secrecy and spiritual reverence, was performed by Buddhist monks in the region of Mount Udano, one of Japan's sacred peaks. The monks who undertook this journey did not seek immortality in the conventional sense. Rather, they sought spiritual transcendence and ultimate merging with the divine. The path to becoming a Sokushinbutsu was grueling, involving a series of intense, methodical stages that stretched across years of self-denial and discipline. The journey began with the monks' decision to dedicate their body entirely to their religious practice, casting off the worldly desires that bind human existence. To begin, the monk would enter a phase of severe asceticism. For several years, the monk would consume only a strict diet of nuts, seeds, and roots, foods that would cause extreme weight loss and bodily dehydration. This diet, known as the diet of death, was designed to purge the body of fat, which would otherwise hinder the process of mummification. The monk would also engage in rigorous physical training to expel every ounce of excess moisture and flesh. Their body would shrink, and with it, their connection to the world of the living would slowly dissolve. Once this stage was complete, the monk would retreat to a small underground tomb, sealed off from the world. Here they would continue their physical discipline, engaging in meditation and prayer to prepare for the final stage, a gradual self-mummification. The most difficult phase of the process was the monk's final act of self-control. The monk would begin to drink a special tea made from the urushi tree, a toxic substance that would slowly poison their body. As the poison took effect, the monk's organs would begin to shut down. Over time, their body would dehydrate further, and any remaining fat or moisture would evaporate, preserving the body in a state of desiccation. After their death, the monk's body would be left in the tomb for several years before being exhumed. If the mummification process was successful, the monk's body would remain remarkably intact, solidified by the toxins, shriveled but not decayed. The body now preserved as a mummy would be paraded as an object of reverence, proof of the monk's achievement in merging with the divine. Their existence was no longer bound by earthly limitations. They had transcended. This strange and sacred practice was not a widely spread tradition, and it was practiced only by a select few monks in specific regions of Japan. Mount Udano, one of the 3 mountains of Dewa, became the spiritual center for many who sought to achieve this ultimate form of enlightenment. The act of Sokushinbutsu was seen as the highest form of asceticism, a powerful final offering to the gods. However, the practice was not without controversy, both within the Buddhist community and beyond. For centuries, the Sokushinbutsu were revered as holy figures, and their mummified remains were displayed at local temples as sacred relics. But as time passed, The practice was eventually outlawed in the late 19th century under the Meiji government's push for modernization and the separation of Shinto and Buddhism. The mummified monks were no longer seen as objects of veneration, but rather as relics of a time long gone. Today, there are fewer than 30 known mummies of Sokushinbutsu, most of them located in Yamagata Prefecture. These preserved monks stand as haunting reminders of a belief system that merged death with divinity in a unique and solemn way. Some mummies are preserved within small shrines accessible to the public, while others remain in temples hidden deep in the mountains, visited only by those who seek a deeper understanding of Japan's spiritual history. In 2016, one of the most well-preserved Sokushinbutsu was discovered at Dainichibo Temple in Yamagata. The monk known as Tetsumonkai had been preserved for over 300 years, his body remarkably intact, with skin stretched taut over his bones. His eyes were still visible, and his features retained an eerie calmness, as if in eternal meditation. The discovery of this well-preserved mummy sparked renewed interest in the Sokushinbutsu and prompted further research into the methods behind their preservation. But even today, there are unanswered questions. How exactly did the monks achieve this level of preservation without modern technology? What did they understand about the human body that we still do not? Was the process truly one of transcendence? Or was it an act of desperation, a final attempt to escape the confines of the mortal world? More unsettling still is the underlying question. What compelled these monks to take such extreme steps? Was this a personal quest for salvation, or was it a collective spiritual act meant to offer enlightenment to the community? How much of this practice was driven by faith, and how much by the monks' own fear of death? It's hard to shake the thought that the act of mummification, painful, toxic, and isolating as it was, represented a search for something greater. The Sokushinbutsu were not seeking immortality in the traditional sense. They sought the divine. They sought to prove that the body could transcend its earthly limitations, that the soul could escape even the constraints of death. And in the end, that is what the fire mummies have left us with. A question of how far the human spirit is willing to go to achieve enlightenment, to escape the cycles of life and death, and to make sense of the mystery that lies beyond our understanding. What happens when one walks that final path into the unknown, into the beyond, and seeks to transcend not only this life, but the very nature of being itself? Perhaps the answer lies buried in the silent bodies of the Sokushinbutsu, preserved through time, waiting for us to listen. Would you like to continue this exploration by turning to the mysterious legends surrounding the Killing Stone, the Seshoseki, and its ties to ancient folklore? Or should we look further into the mystical practices of Japan's Yamabushi monks? Sanai Maruyama, a Jomon metropolis? As we step away from the haunting self-sacrifice of the Sokushinbutsu monks, we turn our attention to a different kind of mystery, one that takes us back over 5,000 years into the world of the Jomon people, whose legacy continues to puzzle modern scholars. In the northern part of Japan's Honshu Island, an archaeological site has emerged that challenges everything we thought we knew about the ancient past, the Sanai Maruyama ruins. Located near the city of Aomori, the Sanai Maruyama site is one of the largest and most significant Jomon-era settlements ever discovered, spanning roughly 30,000 square meters. It is believed to have been occupied around 3,500 to 2,500 BCE. What makes this site extraordinary, however, is not just its size, but the complexity of its construction and the level of advanced social organization it reveals. When you walk through the site today, you are struck by the precision of the design and the scale of the structures. Large circular houses, some with thatched roofs and stone foundations, are spread across the landscape. These houses, known as pit dwellings, were not just places to live, but had a communal purpose, suggesting a well-organized society. Some of the buildings were so large they likely housed entire families, or perhaps even small clans, providing shelter for a wide network of people. But it is the more remarkable discoveries, objects, and construction techniques that have left archaeologists and historians alike pondering the true nature of the Jomon people. For example, excavations have revealed intricate pottery, some of the oldest in the world, as well as beautifully crafted stone tools and ritualistic objects made from bone and antler. These objects offer a window into a culture that was not only sophisticated, but also deeply connected to its environment. Some of the large wooden poles found at the site have led researchers to speculate that the Jomon people might have constructed complex ceremonial or social structures, similar to the stone circles or timber circles seen in other parts of the world, such as Europe. Could these sites have held religious significance, or were they merely functional, serving as community gathering places for trade, ritual, or governance? More striking are the storage pits uncovered at Sanai Maruyama, which suggests that the Jomon had a deep understanding of food preservation and storage techniques. Evidence of rice and other grains stored in these pits has led some scholars to challenge the conventional narrative that Japan's rice culture began much later during the Yayoi period. Instead, could the Jomon have had a far more advanced agricultural system than previously thought? The scale of the site and the evidence of food storage and complex structures imply that the Jomon were not simply hunter-gatherers, as once assumed. Rather, they were developing complex societies with trade networks, social hierarchies, and specialized labor, traits we would normally associate with much later civilizations. Their seafaring abilities, evidenced by the presence of marine resources like shells, fish, and even large sea mammals, demonstrate an understanding of the natural world that seems to surpass the expectations of the time. Yet as impressive as the discoveries are, they do not answer all questions. How did such a society come to exist in an era when most other cultures were still in early stages of development? Was the Jomon culture uniquely gifted with insight into agricultural practices, construction, and art? Or was there something more, something perhaps that has been lost over time? Knowledge, traditions, or techniques that did not survive the centuries? The site of Sanai Maruyama raises another intriguing possibility, that the Jomon were connected to other advanced societies outside Japan. Evidence of trade networks has been uncovered, suggesting that the Jomon people were not isolated, but had contact with distant lands, possibly even across the Pacific. Could there have been exchanges of ideas, goods, and technologies between ancient civilizations that we have yet to fully trace? One of the most fascinating discoveries at Sanai Maruyama was a large, enigmatic statue, which some have speculated may have been a shamanistic figure or a symbol of power. The presence of such statues raises questions about the Jomon spiritual beliefs. Were they animists, believing in spirits that resided in animals, plants, and the landscape? Or did they have more organized religious practices, perhaps worshiping gods or forces of nature, in ways that we still don't fully understand? Interestingly, the term Jomon itself means cord-marked, a reference to the unique patterns found on the pottery of the time. This pottery, often decorated with intricate spiral or geometric patterns, has sparked much debate. Some scholars believe the designs may have held ritual significance, possibly serving as representations of natural forces or spiritual symbols. Others wonder whether the patterns were simply ornamental, a sign of the artistic and creative abilities of the Jomon people. But even as researchers begin to piece together these threads of history, the mysteries of the Jomon society remain deep. Was this truly a society of people ahead of their time? Did the Jomon understand aspects of life that we have only recently discovered? Ideas about agriculture, architecture, and social organization that seem so advanced for their era? Or were the Jomon merely another culture doing their best to survive and thrive in a world that was far less predictable than we might imagine? What if the Jomon people were not just survivors of their time, but true pioneers of human civilization, paving the way for the cultures that would follow? Was their advanced society forgotten, buried under the sands of time and neglect, only to be rediscovered centuries later, as if the earth had kept their secret until we were ready to hear it? Perhaps the most tantalizing question of all is this: what else is still hidden beneath the earth at Sanai Maruyama and other Jomon sites? What discoveries are still waiting to be unearthed that could further illuminate the mysteries of these ancient people, revealing connections and knowledge we have yet to imagine? For now, the Sanai Maruyama ruins stand as a reminder of how much we still have to learn about our distant ancestors, and how much of their story is still veiled in the mists of time. Would you like to continue the exploration by investigating the ancient rituals and beliefs surrounding the Ainu people of Hokkaido? Or would you prefer to delve into the mysterious ancient script known as Kudan, potentially linking the Jomon to other lost civilizations. Mu and Lemuria, lost continents of the Pacific? As we leave behind the remnants of the Jomon civilization with their enigmatic settlements and advanced practices, we now turn our gaze toward a much older and more elusive mystery, one that may stretch beyond the confines of historical records and into the realm of lost continents and ancient mythologies. Somewhere beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean, it is said, lies the lost continent of Mu. The name alone conjures up images of a great ancient civilization, its grandeur long forgotten by time. But is there any truth to these legends, or are they merely the whispers of myth? The concept of Mu was first popularized in the late 19th century by James Churchward, a British author and researcher who claimed to have discovered evidence of a sunken landmass in the Pacific. According to Churchward, this vast continent existed long before the rise of modern civilizations, home to a highly advanced race of people who possessed knowledge and technologies far beyond their time. Churchward's writings describe Mu as a utopian civilization, a society capable of feats that would take millennia for humanity to catch up to. But after a great cataclysm, the continent sank beneath the ocean's surface, leaving no trace except in the distant echoes of myth and rumor. But the idea of Mu did not begin with Churchward. In fact, ancient Japanese texts contain references to lands that may well be the origins of these stories. One of the most intriguing sources comes from the Kojiki, a record of ancient Japanese history and mythology, which speaks of a great land that existed long before Japan's islands were formed. The ancient texts hint at a civilization that once thrived in the Pacific, a place where gods and mortals mingled, and where knowledge was passed down through divine intervention. Could the myths of Mu be linked to the ancient traditions of Japan? But if we are to believe in the possibility of Mu's existence, we must ask, could there be a direct connection between the ancient civilizations of Japan and the fabled lost continent? Could the Jomon people, whose advanced society we just explored, have had ties to this forgotten land? What if the Jomon, with their intricate knowledge of pottery, agriculture, and social organization, were somehow influenced by an even older and more mysterious civilization? There are those who believe that the ancient Japanese had access to knowledge that came not from their immediate surroundings, but from far distant shores, perhaps even from a sunken landmass like Mu. Some of the most compelling evidence comes from the study of the Yonaguni Monument, an underwater structure off the coast of Yonaguni, Japan. Some researchers argue that the monument's geometric shapes and terraces are not natural formations, but the remains of an ancient man-made structure. Could this be the final resting place of Mu's civilization, hidden beneath the waves waiting to be discovered? Or is the monument simply a geological oddity, a product of nature rather than human hands? Then there is the theory of Lemuria, another lost continent often associated with Mu. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the idea of Lemuria was proposed to explain the distribution of certain animal species across the Indian and Pacific Oceans. This theory suggested that a vast landmass once connected parts of Asia, Africa, and the Pacific Islands, including Japan. Some of the most intriguing proponents of the Lemuria theory claim that Japan, being located near the epicenter of these ancient civilizations, may have once been a thriving part of this vast continent. Could the ancient people of Japan have inherited the knowledge and wisdom of Lemuria, passed down through the ages, and preserved in the myths and artifacts we find today? What is particularly fascinating is that Japan's ancient spiritual traditions, from Shinto beliefs to the veneration of the kami, resemble aspects of the religious practices said to have existed in both Mu and Lemuria. The reverence for nature, the worship of ancestors, and the belief in a divine connection to the natural world all mirror the spiritual practices attributed to these lost lands. Could these cultural threads be the lingering echoes of a civilization that existed long before written history? There are also those who believe that Japan itself may hold the key to understanding the fate of Mu and Lemuria. The Ainu people, the indigenous inhabitants of Hokkaido and other northern regions of Japan, have long held their own oral traditions that speak of ancient lands that once lay to the west, beyond the ocean. These myths, passed down through generations, describe civilizations lost to the sea, civilizations that existed in harmony with the natural world, only to be swallowed by the tides of time. Could the Ainu legends be a distant memory of Mu's downfall? Or perhaps a reflection of an even older civilization that once spanned the Pacific? In the waters around Japan, the deep currents continue to carry stories of ancient civilizations. The coastal regions, dotted with mysterious underwater structures and unexplained artifacts, hint at something more than just geological phenomena. Could these submerged remnants be pieces of a forgotten history, waiting to be pieced together? Perhaps the most tantalizing question is whether Mu and Lemuria are entirely fictional, or whether they were real lands drowned beneath the ocean's depths, their histories obscured by time. As researchers continue to investigate underwater ruins, ancient texts, and cultural legends, it becomes ever more difficult to dismiss the possibility that ancient civilizations existed in the Pacific long before recorded history. Whether or not they were truly the source of knowledge for the people of Japan remains uncertain, but what is clear is that the mysteries surrounding Mu and Lemuria continue to captivate the imagination, sparking questions about human history that may never be fully answered. Could it be that the key to unlocking this ancient enigma lies in the secrets still hidden beneath the sea, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? Only time and further exploration will tell. The Tsukumo skull, echoes of early humans. As we continue to delve deeper into Japan's ancient past, we shift our focus to a discovery that could challenge our understanding of human history itself. In the quiet, rugged hills of Tsukumo in central Japan, a discovery was made that would ripple through the world of archaeology. Here, nestled in the soil of an ancient burial site, a single human skull was unearthed, its age, its origin, and its connection to the broader sweep of human civilization, all wrapped in a shroud of mystery. The Tsukumo skull, as it would come to be known, is thought to be the oldest human remains ever found in Japan. Dating back an astonishing 30,000 years, it suggests the presence of early humans in Japan, long before the rise of the civilizations we are familiar with today. What's particularly compelling about the Tsukumo skull is not simply its age, but the peculiarities that surround it. The details that suggest its history is far more complex than we might expect from the conventional narrative of human migration. Discovered in the late 1980s, the skull was found by a team of researchers working at a site located near the Tsukumo River in the Kagawa Prefecture. At first glance, the skull appeared unremarkable, another piece of the puzzle in the long history of human settlement in the Japanese archipelago. But as the research progressed, the skull began to reveal clues that pointed to something more unusual, something that would prompt further investigation and speculation. The first mystery that arose from the Tsukumo skull was its physical characteristics. The skull itself is strikingly different from the remains of other humans discovered in East Asia, especially those from the same time period. Early humans in Japan, such as the Jomon people, were believed to have a distinct skeletal structure characterized by broader, rounder skulls and a more robust build. But the Tsukumo skull presents a different picture. Its features suggest a more refined, delicate structure, one that seems to align more closely with populations found in Southeast Asia or even the distant Caucasus. Could this indicate that the ancestors of these people came to Japan from even farther away than originally thought? The age of the skull adds to the intrigue. While the Tsukumo skull is not the oldest human remains in the world, far from it, it is the oldest known example from Japan and represents a crucial link in the puzzle of human migration to the islands. At 30,000 years old, it falls within the late Paleolithic period, when humans were still in the early stages of developing the tools, customs, and cultural practices that would eventually define civilization. This period marks a time when the islands of Japan were sparsely populated and isolated from the rest of the world by the surrounding seas. One of the most perplexing aspects of the Tsukumo skull is that its discovery challenges the more conventional theory of human migration to the Japanese archipelago. According to widely accepted theories, humans are believed to have arrived in Japan around 35,000 years ago, likely coming from the mainland of Asia. The timeline fits neatly with the appearance of the Jomon people, who are thought to have evolved from these early settlers. Yet the Tsukumo skull seems to suggest a much earlier human presence, one that might predate the Jomon entirely. Could it be that there was another, earlier wave of humans that reached Japan? Or perhaps an entirely unknown group of humans was present long before the Jomon began to settle and establish permanent communities. Theories regarding the identity of the individuals who might have left behind the Tsukumo skull vary widely. Some scholars argue that the skull could belong to a previously unknown group of early humans, a group whose descendants might have left the islands of Japan entirely, leaving no trace of their culture or way of life. This theory suggests that the Tsukumo people, as they have been called, might have been part of an isolated population that was eventually absorbed by later migrations, their distinct features fading into the broader genetic pool of the Jomon and other prehistoric peoples. Others speculate that the Tsukumo skull could be the remains of an individual who had migrated from farther afield, perhaps even from the Eurasian continent. The idea that early humans may have made long-distance migrations across the land bridges and through the vastness of the Pacific is not as far-fetched as it might seem. Archaeologists have long speculated about the possibility of seafaring migrations, and the presence of human remains with characteristics that do not match the typical Jomon skull structure only adds fuel to this fire. Could these people have navigated the waters of the Pacific, settling on the islands of Japan thousands of years before they were ever thought to have done so? This raises the question, could the Tsukumo skull hold the key to understanding a lost chapter of human migration, one that we have overlooked for centuries? What if it reveals a more complex and diverse pattern of settlement on the islands than we've been led to believe? Could it also suggest that Japan's ancient history is far older and more intricate than we've previously imagined? Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of the Tsukumo skull is its silence. Despite its age, it has revealed little in terms of cultural artifacts or material evidence that might provide clearer answers. Unlike the burial sites of the Jomon people, which are rich with tools, pottery, and remnants of early society, the Tsukumo site has yielded few such clues. What does this absence suggest? Was the individual to whom the skull belonged part of a transient, nomadic people who left little behind? Or were the remains of the person, perhaps belonging to a family or small group, simply lost to the ravages of time, leaving only the skull as evidence of their existence? For all the speculation, we are left with few concrete answers. The mysteries of the Tsukumo skull, like many of Japan's ancient enigmas, are tantalizingly elusive, hinting at a far-reaching past that we may never fully understand. As researchers continue to examine the skull, its origins, and its context, we can only wonder what secrets might still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered beneath the soil and the sands of time. What truly happened to these ancient peoples? Who were they? And what truths about the origins of human settlement in Japan might still be buried beneath layers of earth, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? The mystery of the Tsukumo skull endures, and with it, the unyielding questions about the depths of our shared history. The Kofun mirrors. Reflections of the divine? As we continue our journey through Japan's ancient and enigmatic history, we arrive at one of the most striking and puzzling artifacts, objects that have captivated archaeologists and historians for centuries. The mirrors found in the ancient Kofun tombs. The Kofun period, which spanned from the 3rd to the 7th century, is known for its large, keyhole-shaped burial mounds, often serving as the final resting places for Japan's elite, its emperors, princes, and high-ranking figures. Among the many treasures that have been unearthed from these tombs, the mirrors stand out, not only for their craftsmanship, but for the mystery that surrounds them. These ancient objects, many of them highly ornate and some incredibly large, continue to pose more questions than answers. Picture, if you will, stepping into a Kofun tomb. You are surrounded by the quiet hum of the earth, the air heavy with the weight of time. The tombs themselves are grand, their earthen mounds towering over the surrounding landscape, commanding both awe and reverence. Inside, the tombs often contain an assortment of funerary goods: weapons, pottery, jewelry, and mirrors, shiny, reflective surfaces that stand out amidst the more mundane artifacts. These mirrors, however, are unlike anything you may have expected to find in an ancient burial. Crafted from bronze, copper, and even gold, many of the mirrors found within these tombs are often decorated with intricate patterns, mythological symbols, and elaborate motifs. What is especially fascinating is that while mirrors were not entirely uncommon in other parts of the world at the time, The significance of these mirrors in Japan seems to transcend mere functionality. Some of these mirrors are considered to have served as more than just reflective surfaces. In Japanese Shintoism, mirrors are powerful symbols, often representing the divine or the ability to see beyond the physical world. The mirror has long been one of the three sacred treasures of Japan, symbolizing the spirit of truth and the purity of the soul. The famous Yada no Kagami, for instance, is a sacred mirror said to represent wisdom, and it has held profound spiritual significance in Japanese culture for centuries. But as we examine these Kofun mirrors, something begins to feel off, as though there is more to the story than just religious symbolism. Many of these mirrors, especially those found in the largest and most ornate tombs, seem to possess strange characteristics. Their shiny surfaces often show signs of wear or fading. Yet the imagery etched upon them appears almost too precise, too sophisticated for their time. How could the ancient craftsmen have created such elaborate designs without the advanced tools we associate with later periods of history? Could these mirrors have been made using lost techniques, or even knowledge passed down from an ancient civilization that has long been forgotten? Consider also the size and placement of these mirrors within the tombs. Some mirrors are remarkably large, far larger than one would expect to find for any kind of typical personal use. What were these large mirrors used for? And why were they placed in the graves of prominent individuals? Were they purely decorative, or did they serve a ritualistic purpose? Their sheer presence in these tombs, among so many other revered objects, raises an important question. Were these mirrors regarded as sacred in ways we can't fully comprehend? Or did they carry more mystical significance than we can presently discern? An even more perplexing aspect of these mirrors is the decorative motifs that often appear on their surfaces. Intricate images of dragons, phoenixes, and other mythical creatures are commonly seen, but some mirrors feature patterns or symbols that are not readily identifiable in any other known tradition. Some have suggested these symbols may be representations of lost or obscure deities, while others wonder if the mirrors might be depicting astronomical patterns, perhaps intended to align with certain celestial events or serve as part of a ritualistic calendar. What truly deepens the mystery, however, is the connection some scholars have drawn between these mirrors and other ancient artifacts found across Asia. The mirrors discovered in Japan share a striking resemblance to those found in China and Korea. Yet they differ in subtle but significant ways. Some mirrors display a level of craftsmanship and sophistication that suggests they could have been influenced by ancient foreign civilizations, possibly those from the continent. This has led to speculation that there may have been ancient cross-cultural exchanges between Japan and its neighboring countries long before historical records suggest such interactions took place. Perhaps the most intriguing question surrounding these mirrors, however, is their purpose. While it's clear that they held symbolic importance, were they merely decorative, or could they have served a more functional role? Some theories suggest that they were used as ritual objects in Shinto ceremonies, playing a part in the burial process to guide the souls of the deceased to the afterlife. Others posit that these mirrors may have been tools for divination, objects that allowed priests or shamans to commune with the gods or foresee the future. Further still, some have hypothesized that these mirrors could have had a magical or even supernatural purpose, perhaps even used to ward off evil spirits or reflect ill omens away from the tombs. The idea that these mirrors might have been designed to reflect more than just the physical world, perhaps capturing or containing spiritual energy, aligns with ancient belief systems that often blurred the lines between the material and the mystical. Could the mirrors have been intended as protective barriers, guarding against malevolent forces in the afterlife? In all these theories, one thing becomes clear. The Kofun mirrors are not ordinary objects, and their significance cannot be understood with a single lens. The combination of their unusual design, their spiritual connotations, and their possible foreign connections makes them objects of deep intrigue. They speak to a Japan of a time long gone, a place where ancient beliefs, cultural exchanges, and mysterious practices may have woven together in ways we can only guess at today. And yet the ultimate purpose of these mirrors remains an open question. Were they purely symbolic, designed to reflect the divine or illuminate the souls of the departed? Or did they hold an even deeper, more hidden significance, one that has slipped through the cracks of time, buried alongside the rulers and nobles of an ancient Japan? As we continue to explore the mysteries of Japan's past, one thing remains certain. The truth behind these mirrors, like so many other enigmatic artifacts, may still lie beyond our reach, waiting for a future generation to unlock the secrets hidden in their polished surfaces. What might they still reflect, waiting to be seen? The Jomon stone circles, celestial calendars or sacred sites. Nestled within the quiet, rolling hills of northern Japan, a curious and ancient site awaits discovery, its purpose shrouded in mystery, its meaning obscured by time. The Jomon stone circles of Japan, such as those found at Oyu Kanjo, are among the most enigmatic and awe-inspiring remnants of a civilization that flourished over 4,000 years ago. These circles, composed of large, carefully arranged stones, stand as silent sentinels, their purpose and origins tantalizingly elusive. Imagine standing in the heart of the Oyu Kanjo site, the ground beneath you, soft with the weight of centuries. Surrounding you are the massive stones, some standing upright, others fallen or scattered across the earth, their surfaces weathered by countless seasons. The air here is thick with an ancient stillness, the type of quiet that comes when a place has borne witness to millennia of change. As you look out across the stone circles, you may feel a profound sense of connection to the distant past, an awareness that the people who placed these stones were not just builders, but marking something much deeper, something unseen and perhaps unknowable. The Jomon period, which spanned from around 14,000 BCE to 300 BCE, is known for its intricate pottery and the early emergence of complex spiritual practices. Yet there is little consensus on what these stone circles were meant to represent. Were they astronomical observatories designed to track the movements of the stars and planets? Were they ritualistic centers built to honor deities or the forces of nature? Or could they have served as something far more mundane, perhaps markers for burial sites or meeting places for early communities? The Oyu Kanjo stone circle is perhaps the most well-known of these sites, where a remarkable arrangement of stones forms large concentric circles, some with diameters reaching up to 40 meters. The careful placement of the stones is undeniable. Their arrangement is too precise to be the work of chance. What is even more striking is the fact that the stone circle at Oyu Kanjo seems to mirror the patterns of the night sky. Some scholars have suggested that these circles could have been designed to represent the movements of celestial bodies, perhaps as early forms of astronomical calendars. Could these ancient people have used the stars to predict the seasons, to determine the best times for planting, or to celebrate the coming of harvests? The idea of the astronomical purpose of these circles is compelling. Ancient cultures around the world, from the Druids of Britain to the Native Americans of the Southwest, used stone circles to track the sun's movement across the sky. In fact, Oyu Kanjo shares remarkable similarities with other ancient stone circles, such as those found at the Nabta Playa in Egypt and Stonehenge in Britain. These connections suggest a possible universal pattern among early cultures, one that looked to the heavens for guidance. Yet the mystery of the Jomon stone circles deepens when we consider their possible ritualistic significance. It is known that the Jomon people held animistic beliefs, venerating natural elements like the earth, water, and the skies, as well as various spiritual forces that govern their lives. Could the stone circles have served as ceremonial spaces where worshippers gathered to honor these forces? The careful symmetry of the circles, the placement of stones in relation to the landscape, and the apparent alignment with celestial events point to the possibility that these were not just functional structures, but sacred sites designed for ritualistic purposes. In fact, the idea that these stones might have been used for ritual is bolstered by the discovery of other objects nearby. Small statues, pottery fragments, and even human remains. These findings suggest that the area was likely a place of commemoration, a center where people gathered for important rites. The notion that these stone circles were not just physical structures, but spiritual nexuses is a theory worth considering. Were these stones placed to serve as guides for the soul? Or perhaps to channel spiritual energy from the earth to the sky? And if these stones were used in such a way, what kind of cosmology or belief system did the Jomon people subscribe to? Yet as we delve further into the purpose of the Jomon stone circles, we encounter more speculative theories. Some researchers have suggested that these circles were markers for a lost civilization, one that predates known history by thousands of years. If true, this would raise even more questions. Could the Jomon people have inherited knowledge from an earlier, more advanced society? Could these stone circles, with their apparent alignment to the stars, be remnants of a cultural memory passed down through generations, hidden beneath the sands of time? Others have proposed that these circles were not just aligned with the stars, but with ley lines, the invisible networks of energy that some believe crisscross the planet. This idea, though highly speculative, taps into a long-standing belief that ancient peoples were in tune with Earth energies in ways that modern society has long since forgotten. Could these stones, placed so deliberately, have been part of a system to harness or tap into these forces? Still, for all these theories, one undeniable truth remains. The exact function of the Jomon stone circles, especially those at Oyukanjo, remains unknown. Whether they were astronomical calendars, ritualistic sites, or something far more mysterious, we may never be able to fully comprehend their original purpose. As with so many ancient sites, we are left with more questions than answers. Standing at the heart of one of these stone circles, surrounded by the weight of centuries, the air thick with the silence of time, we are reminded of the depths of human curiosity and the enduring drive to seek meaning. What were these stones meant to signify? What kind of knowledge did they embody? And perhaps most importantly, what remains hidden in their silent stone faces, waiting for us to uncover it? As we reflect on the Jomon stone circles, we are left with a sense of wonder and awe. These stones, placed so carefully and deliberately by an ancient people, stand as a testament to a civilization's attempt to understand the cosmos, the natural world, and their place within it. What knowledge might still be locked within these stones, waiting for someone, someday, to unlock their secrets? The Emishi, a vanished people. In the northern regions of Japan, nestled among the dense forests and steep, rugged mountains, lies a tale that has captivated historians and archaeologists for centuries. The story of the Emishi people. A once prominent group in ancient Japan, their story remains one of the most elusive and mysterious chapters in the country's history. Known primarily from early texts and fragmented records, the Emishi were an indigenous group who lived in the mountainous regions of Honshu, Hokkaido, and parts of the Tohoku area. Despite their prominence in early Japanese history, their fate and eventual disappearance still haunt the annals of time, leaving behind a trail of questions that refuse to be answered. The Emishi were not a monolithic people, but rather a collection of tribes with distinct cultures and traditions. They were known for their resistance to the growing power of the Yamato court, the precursor to the Japanese imperial family, which sought to unify the country. For centuries, the Emishi lived on the fringes of the Yamato realm, maintaining their independence through a combination of guerrilla tactics, remote settlements, and a deep connection to the land. The Emishi are often depicted as skilled horse riders and archers, fiercely defending their territories against invaders. Imagine standing on the edge of a mountain pass in Tohoku, looking out over a misty forested valley. In the distance, the jagged peaks of the U Mountains rise like silent sentinels, their slopes still thick with ancient trees. It is here, amid the quiet expanse of nature, that the Emishi once thrived. The air is thick with the history of those who lived and struggled in these regions, tribes who relied on their intimate knowledge of the land, their courage, and their resourcefulness to survive. But as we look to the records of the past, we find a sudden silence. The Emishi, whose resistance to the Yamato state was well documented for centuries, gradually fade from history, their distinct cultures seemingly erased without a trace. By the 9th century, the Emishi as a separate entity were largely gone. But what happened to them? Did they simply assimilate into the larger Japanese population, their identity slowly absorbed into the dominant Yamato culture? Or was their disappearance more violent, the result of conquest and extermination? According to early chronicles like the Nihon Shoki and the Chronicles of Japan, the Emishi were often depicted as a formidable foe. They were described as a people who lived in harmony with the mountains, using their knowledge of the rugged terrain to stage fierce resistance against the imperial forces. The Yamato court, seeking to expand its influence northward, launched multiple military campaigns, known as the Emishi campaigns, to bring the region under their control. These campaigns, however, were not easy victories. The Emishi were not simply driven away. They fought fiercely, often in ways that the Yamato forces found difficult to combat. But over time, the Emishi were defeated, and their territories were gradually incorporated into the expanding Yamato state. The question, though, remains, what happened to the people themselves? Did they surrender and integrate into the larger Japanese population, as some suggest? Or did they fight to the end, only to disappear, leaving no physical trace of their existence? Archaeological evidence of the Emishi is scarce, yet some artifacts have been uncovered, offering small glimpses into their lives. Burial mounds and pottery found in northern Japan show signs of distinctive craftsmanship different from the Yamato style. These items suggest a rich culture, one that relied on hunting, fishing, and horse riding, skills not commonly associated with other early Japanese societies. The stone tools and bone ornaments found in these regions are equally intriguing, as they appear to be more advanced than other materials of the same period. These discoveries hint at a people whose technological capabilities were greater than might have been expected considering their relatively isolated position on the edges of the Yamato world. Still, as much as archaeology can reveal, it also leaves us with as many questions as answers. Some scholars suggest that the Emishi may have gradually assimilated into the expanding Yamato Empire, especially after their military defeat. Over time, they may have adopted the cultural practices and language of the imperial court, until their distinct identity dissolved entirely. This theory, however, is difficult to confirm, as no written records from the Emishi themselves remain, and no clear markers of their assimilation into Japanese society have been discovered. Another theory posits that the Emishi were not absorbed, but rather driven to the margins of society. In this scenario, they may have retreated deeper into the mountains, continuing their way of life in isolated pockets, far from the influence of the Yamato. However, no definitive evidence has emerged to support this, leaving the possibility of mass displacement or extinction as a more plausible outcome. The disappearance of the Emishi raises intriguing questions about the nature of early Japanese society. Was their downfall a product of inevitable conquest, a clash between civilizations destined to merge into one? Or did something more mysterious occur, something lost to history? Some fringe theories suggest that the Emishi were the remnants of an even older civilization, possibly one with connections to the mythical land of Mu, or a civilization that predates recorded history. If this is true, what could have been the nature of their knowledge and culture? And why did they resist so fiercely the growing power of the Yamato court? The most fascinating aspect of the Emishi mystery is how little we truly know. Despite being mentioned in multiple historical texts, the details of their lives, their customs, and their eventual disappearance remain elusive. They were a people whose legacy was overwritten by the rise of the Yamato state, a civilization that sought to unify Japan under one imperial banner. And yet, as we look deeper into the cracks of history, we are left to wonder, was the Emishi culture completely lost? Or is it still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right time to emerge once again? In the end, the disappearance of the Emishi people may not be a simple story of conquest or assimilation. It may be a reminder of the many histories that remain hidden beneath the surface of the present, stories waiting to be uncovered, waiting to reveal their secrets. What happened to the Emishi? And what other forgotten peoples and stories lie hidden in the shadows of history? Emperor Jimmu's hidden tomb, a divine mystery. Nestled deep within the verdant hills of Japan's Nara prefecture, a place shrouded in both history and legend, lies a mystery that has intrigued historians, archaeologists, and mystics alike for centuries. Emperor Jimmu, the first emperor of Japan and the legendary founder of the Imperial dynasty, is said to have lived more than 2,600 years ago. According to myth, Jimmu was not just a ruler, but a divine figure, born of the sun goddess Amaterasu herself. His reign marked the beginning of the Japanese imperial family, a lineage that continues to this day. And yet, despite his monumental importance in Japanese history, the exact location of Emperor Jimmu's tomb remains one of Japan's greatest unsolved mysteries. The records of his life, written in the ancient Nyan Shoki and Kojiki, speak of his legendary rise to power and his eventual death. But the question remains, where was he buried? These ancient texts claim that Jimu's tomb was located in the Yamato region, modern-day Nara, the heart of early Japanese civilization. But despite extensive searches and excavation efforts, no confirmed tomb has ever been uncovered. The absence of physical evidence raises an intriguing question. Did Emperor Jimu's final resting place simply slip through the cracks of history? Or is it something else entirely, hidden, protected, or forgotten by time? As we venture into the realm of the hidden tomb, we must consider the potential locations that have been proposed over the centuries. One of the most significant candidates is the Mozu Kofun, an enormous burial mound located in Sakai, Osaka Prefecture. This ancient Kofun, or burial mound, is one of Japan's largest and most impressive, its vastness and scale rivaling the tombs of later emperors. Some scholars have speculated that the Mozu Kofun may indeed be the final resting place of Jimmu himself. But even this theory has not been conclusively proven, and the tomb's true identity remains uncertain. The Mozu Kofun, or Daisen Kofun, stands as a testament to the grandeur of ancient burial practices. Enclosed by moats and surrounded by lush greenery, its enormous earthen mound stretches nearly 500 meters in length. The shape of the Kofun is distinctive, an oval, keyhole design, and its sheer size suggests that it was intended for someone of great importance. Was it Emperor Jimmu? Some believe so, pointing to the ceremonial and symbolic aspects of the tomb's construction. The burial mound's keyhole shape has been seen as a symbol of divine authority, connecting the ruler with the heavens. Could this ancient tomb, with its profound significance, be a silent tribute to Japan's first emperor? However, there is a catch. Despite its impressive size, the tomb has never been definitively linked to Jimmu. Archaeologists have yet to uncover direct evidence that ties it to the emperor, and even the inscriptions that might reveal its owner have remained elusive. Some have suggested that the lack of inscription could be intentional, a deliberate attempt to obscure the identity of the tomb's occupant. After all, Emperor Jimmu was not just a historical figure. He was a semi-divine hero, and his tomb might have been hidden or protected in ways that modern scholars can't easily decipher. The mystery deepens when we consider the possibility that Jimmu's tomb might not have been a tomb at all, at least not in the traditional sense. Ancient Japanese tombs were often built with great care and reverence, but in Jimmu's case, could his burial have been intentionally obscured? Some have suggested that his final resting place was hidden for reasons beyond the mundane, perhaps to preserve the emperor's divinity or symbolic power. If Jimmu's tomb were indeed designed to remain secret, what would that mean for our understanding of ancient Japan's rulers and their beliefs? Another theory suggests that Emperor Jimmu's tomb was never meant to be found. The ancient texts speak of a divine mission, one that was carried out by the first emperor with the blessing of the gods. In this context, his burial may have been designed as something more than just a physical resting place. Could Jimmu's tomb have been a symbolic marker, a place that was meant to transcend the earthly realm and remain forever hidden from view? If his tomb was intended to be a sacred site, then perhaps it was always meant to be more than just a grave. Was it a portal of sorts, a place where the emperor's spirit would transcend into the divine, beyond the reach of mortal eyes? Even more perplexing are the accounts that suggest that Jimmu's tomb might be located not just on the physical plane, but also in the realm of the spiritual. Some mystics have suggested that his tomb exists in a parallel dimension, or is hidden from human sight in a way that can only be accessed by those who possess divine insight. Is it possible that the tomb was constructed with certain rituals or spiritual significance that prevent ordinary people from discovering it? Could the burial site be tied to the concept of Japan's sacred geography, where certain locations are believed to be imbued with supernatural power? The connection between Jimmu and the Yamato dynasty further complicates the mystery. The first emperor's tomb was not just a place of burial, it was a place of political significance. For centuries, emperors have been buried in elaborate Kofun tombs, their final resting places serving as symbols of imperial authority. Was Emperor Jimmu's tomb meant to be hidden for political reasons as well as spiritual ones? Could it have been a sacred power that needed to remain concealed from rivals and conquerors? After all, the imperial lineage was said to have been directly descended from the sun goddess Amaterasu, a divine connection that would have been protected at all costs. As the centuries have passed, the mystery of Jimu's tomb has only deepened. Numerous archaeological excavations have failed to definitively uncover his burial site, leaving behind only speculation and tantalizing clues. And yet, the story of the hidden tomb endures, woven into the fabric of Japan's ancient mythology. The question remains, what happened to the tomb of Emperor Jimmu? Is it buried deep beneath the earth, waiting to be discovered? Or is it hidden in plain sight, a sacred space that defies our understanding of time and place? Perhaps in the end, the true mystery of Jimmu's tomb lies not in its physical location, but in its eternal symbolism, a reminder of a past that continues to influence Japan today, even if we cannot fully grasp its secrets. What might still be hidden, waiting to be revealed in the shadows of ancient Japan? Takamatsuzuka, tomb, undeciphered murals. Deep within the tranquil hills of Asuka, Japan, nestled among the ancient burial mounds that dot the landscape, lies a tomb that has captured the imagination of scholars and explorers for decades. The Takamatsuzuka tomb, dating back to the 7th century, is a site of striking beauty and mystery, offering a glimpse into the artistic and spiritual world of Japan's ancient elite. Yet for all its historical significance, one of its most intriguing features remains unsolved: the undeciphered murals that adorn its walls. These murals, delicate and haunting in their portrayal of otherworldly figures and symbols, have left many questions in their wake. What do they mean? Why were they created? And who were the people who sought to immortalize their beliefs in such an enigmatic form? As you approach the tomb, the atmosphere feels timeless, as though the centuries have been absorbed into the landscape itself. The tomb is part of the Takamatsuzuka Kofun, a keyhole-shaped burial mound that rises gently from the earth. Surrounded by a simple stone structure and nestled within a grove of trees, the site feels secluded, almost secretive. It is here, inside the tomb, that one of Japan's greatest visual mysteries lies in wait. The murals inside the Takamatsuzuka tomb are renowned for their vivid colors and intricate designs, but it is their subject matter that has captured the attention of those who study them. The murals depict figures in flowing robes, strange symbols, and heavenly beings that seem to belong to a world beyond the mortal. Among the figures, one is unmistakably divine, with an ethereal presence that suggests a connection to the gods. Some figures are depicted holding ritual implements, while others seem to be performing enigmatic gestures, perhaps in the midst of some sacred or spiritual act. What is most perplexing is the style of the paintings. Unlike other ancient Japanese tomb art, the Takamatsuzuka murals do not adhere to the typical iconography of the period. The figures appear almost otherworldly, with faces that are elongated and expressions that seem distant, as though they exist in another realm altogether. This has led some to speculate that the murals might represent deities or supernatural beings, while others have suggested that they could depict the souls of the deceased traveling to the afterlife. But while the murals' aesthetic qualities are undeniable, their meaning has remained frustratingly elusive. Scholars have tried for years to decode the symbolism behind the paintings, but so far no clear consensus has emerged. Some of the symbols, such as spirals, geometric patterns, and celestial motifs, resemble imagery found in other ancient cultures, but their exact significance in the context of the Takamatsuzuka tomb remains a mystery. Could they be a form of spiritual map guiding the soul to the afterlife? Or perhaps they are a record of rituals and beliefs known only to the royal or noble class who commissioned them. In addition to the mystical figures and abstract symbols, the murals also depict animals, some familiar, some entirely mythical. These creatures are intricately rendered, with fine details that suggest an almost intimate knowledge of the natural world. One of the more striking figures is that of a mythical bird, often interpreted as a phoenix or a heavenly messenger. Its wings spread wide, encircling the figures below, as if to protect or guide them. It is a symbol of rebirth and transformation, one that echoes the themes of life and death that permeate the tomb. There are theories that propose these animals are more than mere decorative elements. They may serve as spiritual guardians, protecting the deceased and guiding their souls through the afterlife. Others believe that the animals are symbolic of the natural world's connection to the divine, representing the belief that the natural and spiritual realms were interconnected. In the world of the ancient Japanese aristocracy, the lines between the mortal and the divine were often blurred, and these murals may have been an attempt to express that profound relationship. However, despite the vivid detail and apparent intentionality behind the murals, no definitive explanation has been reached. Why were these murals created in the first place? What purpose did they serve beyond decoration? And why did those responsible for the tomb's construction choose such a unique and complex artistic language? Were the murals intended to communicate with the gods? Or were they a personal expression of the tomb's owner and their vision of the afterlife? The lack of clear historical records surrounding the tomb only deepens the mystery. Unlike some other tombs of the period, which are associated with specific individuals and families, the identity of the person buried within the Takamatsuzuka tomb is not known. Some speculate that the tomb may belong to a member of the Soga clan, one of the most powerful families in Japan at the time, while others suggest it could be the burial site of a high-ranking noble or even a royal figure. The artistic sophistication of the tomb's murals supports the idea that it was intended for someone of significant status, but who exactly remains a matter of conjecture. Adding to the mystery is the fact that many of the tomb's details remain unexplored or inaccessible to the public. The tomb itself is now covered by a protective building, which shields the murals from the elements but also prevents a full view of the artwork. Scholars and archaeologists have had to rely on photographs and detailed drawings to study the tomb. And while these have provided valuable insights, they cannot replace a first-hand examination of the murals. Some have even wondered whether the murals were meant to be hidden from view entirely. Could they have been designed with an element of secrecy in mind? A secret language only comprehensible to those initiated into the mysteries of the court? Or were they deliberately cryptic, meant to confuse and confound future generations? Much like a sacred puzzle whose solution lies just beyond the reach of modern understanding? As the Takamatsuzuka tomb continues to be studied and explored, it remains a silent witness to a long-lost world, one whose secrets still refuse to be fully unveiled. The murals, with their ethereal figures, mysterious symbols, and mythical creatures, stand as a testament to the complexity of ancient beliefs and the tantalizing mystery that continues to surround them. What meaning did they hold for those who created them? And what does the tomb's hidden history reveal about the nature of life, death, and the afterlife in early Japan? The unanswered questions linger. What other secrets might the tomb still be hiding, waiting to be uncovered by the curious and the dedicated? The Takamatsuzuka tomb, with its undeciphered murals, calls to us across the centuries, urging us to look closer, to understand the messages encoded within its walls, and to consider that perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain just out of reach. Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the legendary sword. Among the many treasures and relics that have shaped the mythology and history of Japan, few hold as much mystery and reverence as the Kusanagi no Tsurugi, the legendary sword said to be one of the 3 Imperial Regalia of Japan. Known as the grass-cutting sword, it is an artifact entwined with the origins of the Japanese imperial family, holding a place in both history and myth. For centuries, this sword has been associated with divinity, power, and sovereignty, its story steeped in both fact and legend. The Kusanagi is believed to have been passed down through generations, a gift from the gods themselves, bestowed upon the legendary Emperor Jimmu, the first ruler of Japan. Its origins, however, are as shrouded in mystery as the sword's current whereabouts. Historically, the Kusanagi is said to have been discovered by Susanoo, the storm god, who found it embedded in the tail of an enormous serpent. In one of Japan's most well-known myths, Susanoo slays the serpent Yamatai no Orochi, and in doing so, he uncovers the sword within its body. The blade, now a symbol of divine protection, was later presented to Amaterasu, the sun goddess, and eventually to the imperial family. This connection to the gods imbues the Kusanagi with a power that surpasses that of an ordinary weapon. In the mythological narrative, the sword is instrumental in the establishment of Japan's imperial line, its presence believed to validate the divine right of emperors to rule. Over time, the sword became more than just a relic. It became a symbol of Japan's unbroken imperial lineage, a physical manifestation of sacred authority. The Kusanagi's history becomes even more elusive as we move into the realm of actual historical records. It is widely believed that the sword was housed in the Ise Grand Shrine, one of Japan's holiest Shinto shrines, for centuries. Yet after the 7th century, it disappears from the official historical records, and its whereabouts remain unknown. Some believe it was hidden away, its precise location known only to a select few. Others suggest it was lost, or perhaps destroyed in a tumultuous period of Japanese history. The mystery surrounding the Kusanagi deepens when one considers the Imperial Regalia of Japan, 3 sacred treasures that serve as the symbols of the emperor's legitimacy. Along with the mirror and the jewel, the sword is a vital part of the sacred treasures of Japan, and its presence at the imperial enthronement is considered a sacred ritual. Yet no one can confirm where the sword has been for centuries. Could it still exist, hidden somewhere deep within the country, or has it long since disappeared? In recent years, various theories have emerged to explain the Kusanagi's disappearance. One theory posits that the sword may have been hidden during the 14th century, as Japan experienced intense political instability, with rival factions and the Ashikaga shogunate in power. It's possible that the sword was hidden to protect it from being stolen or used for political gain. Perhaps it was kept in secret by the imperial family, passed down through the centuries, waiting for the right moment to emerge once again. If this were true, it would mean that the sword's disappearance was intentional, a carefully guarded secret meant to preserve its mystique and sacredness. Others, however, suggest that the Kusanagi sword might not even be a physical object at all. Some theorists propose that the sword is a symbolic relic rather than a tangible weapon, with its true nature lying in the mythological significance it holds for the people of Japan. Could it have been destroyed long ago, its physical form lost to time, while its legendary power endured as a concept, an unbroken symbol of Japan's divine heritage? Another possibility, however, raises the question of authenticity. Could the Kusanagi sword, as described in the myths, be an entirely fictional creation, a powerful symbol built upon layers of myth over centuries? While this theory seems far-fetched, it is difficult to dismiss entirely, especially given the historical gaps in the record. The absence of definitive evidence concerning its existence, as well as the discrepancies in various accounts, leaves open the possibility that the sword is not a historical artifact, but a mythological construct, a symbol of power and divinity that might never have existed in the way the stories suggest. However, one cannot ignore the mystical allure that the Kusanagi holds. The sword is intertwined with stories of heroes, gods, and supernatural forces, and in this respect it is much more than a mere weapon. It is a representation of cosmic order, a reminder of Japan's connection to the divine, and the balance between the human and the supernatural. Its very absence from the historical record only amplifies the aura of mystery that surrounds it. For those who believe in its continued existence, the idea that the Kusanagi is merely hidden, waiting to be found, holds a particular romantic allure. Consider the many tomb raiders, adventurers, and scholars who have spent their lives searching for the sword, hoping to unlock a secret that could change the course of Japanese history. Could the sword still be hidden in one of Japan's many ancient shrines or forgotten places? Or has it, as some suspect, vanished beyond the reach of time and memory, leaving only its mythical legacy behind? The Kusanagi, regardless of its fate, remains an integral part of Japan's national consciousness, a relic that embodies both divine and earthly power. It is the sword of the gods, the symbol of the Japanese throne, and an object of unfathomable significance. Its mystery persists, growing richer with every unanswered question. As time passes, the search for the Kusanagi continues, not just in the physical realm, but in the realm of the imagination. What if the sword's greatest mystery lies not in the search for its tangible form, but in the power it continues to hold over the Japanese psyche? What does the absence of such a relic say about the nature of belief, myth, and history in Japan? Perhaps the sword is not lost at all. Perhaps it resides in a deeper, more symbolic place, forever part of the mystery that defines Japan's ancient past. The Kappa water spirits of legend. Beneath the still surface of Japan's countless rivers and streams, there is a whispered legend of creatures that have haunted the nation's waterways for centuries. Known as the Kappa, these water spirits or cryptids are infamous in Japanese folklore. Their stories passed down through generations as both cautionary tales and subjects of fascination. The Kappa is often depicted as a small humanoid creature, no taller than a child, with a greenish, scaly body and a damp, slippery appearance. It is said to inhabit ponds, rivers, and even the quiet, serene canals that weave through Japan's rural landscapes. But the most distinctive feature of the Kappa is the dish-like depression on its head, a kind of water-filled bowl, which is the source of its strength. Without water in this depression, a Kappa is said to lose its power, rendering it weak and helpless. Kappa legends are not only found in rural settings, but are a central part of Japan's rich tapestry of mythology. They are often described as mischievous and sometimes dangerous creatures, their playful demeanor masking a more sinister side. Kappa have been known to challenge humans to wrestling matches, dragging their victims into the water where they are drowned. Others claim that the Kappa's most chilling act is its ability to draw out the life force from its victims through a deadly maneuver known as the shirikadama, a mythical organ said to reside within the human rectum. This cryptic, grotesque act leaves behind only a lifeless body, the victim's soul drained, their body a hollow vessel. Yet despite their terrifying nature, Kappa are not always seen as purely malevolent. In some accounts, they possess a sense of honor and even curiosity about the human world. The Kappa may make deals with people, granting them good fortune or knowledge in exchange for offerings. In some cases, the creatures are even said to act as protectors of rivers and waterways, helping humans when the creatures are treated with respect. The Kappa's role as a mischievous and potentially deadly water spirit has persisted through the ages, but its origins remain elusive. How did this cryptid evolve from a simple tale of a mischievous spirit to one of Japan's most enduring and mysterious myths? Was there once a real creature or phenomenon that inspired the legends? Or is it possible that the Kappa is a purely symbolic entity woven from the fear and mystique surrounding water itself? Some researchers suggest that the Kappa could be rooted in ancient shamanistic beliefs, spiritual guardians of water that took on various forms in myth. Ancient peoples believed that the rivers and streams were home to spirits and gods, and the Kappa may have emerged as a representation of the dangers and the sacred nature of water. These creatures could have been ritualistic figures or part of Shinto belief, symbolizing both life and death, growth and decay, since water is the element that sustains all life, and yet, in the wrong form, can also be destructive. Another theory points to the cultural importance of water creatures across the world, suggesting that the Kappa could have similarities with other water cryptids found in folklore worldwide. Europe's river monsters, for example, share many characteristics with the Kappa, such as their amphibious nature, their mischievous traits, and their connection to water's dangerous, unpredictable side. Could the Kappa have evolved from shared human fears of the uncontrollable forces of nature? Or did ancient cultures independently invent similar myths to explain water's power, giving rise to water spirits in many different regions? The Kappa is not the only mysterious water creature in Japan. Throughout the country, there have been sightings of other cryptids, often believed to inhabit lakes and rivers, some more obscure than the Kappa, yet just as compelling. The Funayure, for instance, are ghostly apparitions that appear on lakes or rivers. These figures are said to rise from the water at night, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and often seen hovering over the water's surface before disappearing just as quickly as they appear. Other cryptids include the umibozu, a massive sea-dwelling creature that appears on stormy nights and is said to be capable of capsizing entire ships with its massive size. What makes these water cryptids especially intriguing is their ability to straddle the line between myth and reality. Are they purely fictional creatures born from fear of the unknown, or do they have some basis in actual events or sightings? In some regions of Japan, cryptic tales of river creatures are so persistent that it's difficult to tell where legend ends and reality begins. For example, in the late 19th century, a report was made by a Japanese fisherman who claimed to have encountered a large humanoid creature in the waters of the East Bay. The creature was described as being greenish, much like the kappa, but much larger, perhaps even the size of a human. The fisherman described its eyes as glowing and its body as having strange, unnatural scales. Could this have been a genuine encounter with an unknown species? Or is it simply another piece of the cryptic puzzle surrounding these creatures? Other reports from fishermen and travelers throughout Japan recount strange creatures lurking in rivers, ponds, and lakes, creatures that seem to defy explanation. These reports often describe unusual ripples on the surface of the water, unseen forces pulling boats, or sudden waves that appear for no apparent reason. With so many mysterious sightings, one has to wonder, could these phenomena truly be attributed to natural occurrences? Or is something else lurking beneath the surface? The mystery of the kappa and other similar water cryptids seems to persist in the backdrop of Japan's deeply rooted folklore. Despite the many attempts to explain them through rational means, whether as misidentified animals, delusions, or the result of natural phenomena, there remains something unsettlingly elusive about the stories. These creatures, after all, are tied to a natural force that has always been both life-giving and dangerous. The rivers, lakes, and seas of Japan have long been sites of mystery and danger, with water being an element that can both nurture and destroy. In the end, the kappa and its fellow water cryptids remain elusive, fading in and out of the collective consciousness of the Japanese people. Is there some truth to the legends? Or do they simply represent our need to make sense of the world around us, especially the forces that we cannot control? What is it about these stories that continue to capture our imaginations century after century? Perhaps the real mystery lies in the unanswered question. What might still be lurking beneath the waters, waiting to be discovered, or perhaps to be forgotten once again? The Tengu, bird-like beings of the mountains, high in the mountains of Japan, where the mist clings to the trees and the winds whisper ancient secrets. A being of supernatural power has long been said to roam. The Tengu, these enigmatic creatures, often portrayed as half-human, half-bird, have been a central part of Japanese folklore for centuries, their presence both feared and revered. But who or what are the Tengu? What lies beneath their bird-like appearance? And why have they captured the imagination of the Japanese people for so long? The Tengu are most commonly associated with the mountainous regions of Japan, particularly the sacred mountains of Shinto. In these remote wooded areas, where ancient shrines are hidden among the trees and the skies seem perpetually shrouded in mist, tales of the Tengu's existence thrive. Descriptions of these beings vary widely, but one consistent theme runs through the accounts. They are powerful, elusive, and often dangerous. The Tengu's appearance is striking. They are typically depicted as humanoid figures with the beak of a bird, sometimes paired with red skin or long, beady eyes. Their most notable feature is the presence of wings, either on their back or as a part of their body, allowing them to soar across the sky. Often they are shown wearing a Tengu mask, which adds to their otherworldly appearance. Sometimes their legs resemble those of birds, strong, muscular, and capable of powerful, agile movements. Their role in folklore is similarly varied. They are portrayed as guardian figures, warrior spirits, mountain hermits, and even rebellious tricksters. The question that looms, however, is this: where did the Tengu originate? And what is their true nature? One theory suggests that the Tengu's roots can be traced back to ancient shamanistic traditions. In many cultures, the bird is a symbol of the sky, freedom, and the connection between heaven and earth. It is possible that the Tengu were originally seen as spiritual beings who served as intermediaries between humans and the gods. As many cultures across the world have similarly conceived of bird-like figures that bridge the natural and supernatural worlds. In this light, the Tengu might have been viewed not just as guardians of the mountains, but as spiritual guides who assisted in the pilgrimages to sacred sites. Another theory posits that the Tengu could have been influenced by early Buddhist and Taoist beliefs, which introduced the concept of sky spirits to Japan. In these traditions, beings who lived in the mountains or sky were seen as enlightened or transcendent, embodying the connection between the human world and the divine. These sky beings were often depicted as having magical abilities, and the Tengu's mystical powers, like their ability to fly or shapeshift, might reflect this connection. The Tengu could have evolved from these earlier beliefs into the complex figures found in Japanese folklore, a fusion of Buddhist, Taoist, and indigenous Shinto elements. Yet the Tengu's origin is not merely a product of spiritual or religious imagination. The figure of the Tengu might also have been shaped by the real-world presence of the Yamabushi, or mountain ascetics. These ascetic monks, who practiced self-discipline in the remote mountains of Japan, were known for their austere rituals and their connection to nature. In the medieval period, the Tengu were often depicted as spiritual warriors or mountain hermits, reflecting a kind of blend between human ascetics and supernatural beings. Some believed that these ascetics had been blessed by the gods with extraordinary powers, and that their solitary, sometimes mysterious practices might have given rise to tales of the Tengu. Could the Tengu, in their more benevolent form, be linked to these ascetic practitioners, transforming over time into the bird-like mystical figures found in legend? Despite the variety of explanations for the Tengu's origin, there is another, far darker possibility that the Tengu, in their more fearsome and malevolent form, could have emerged from the ancient fears of the unknown. The mountains, with their deep forests and isolated peaks, were once seen as dangerous and unpredictable places. Travelers, pilgrims, and even the common folk who ventured into the mountains spoke of encounters with strange forces, of being attacked by supernatural creatures, or hearing eerie cries that seemed to echo through the trees. These dark, otherworldly creatures might have been given the form of the Tengu to represent the dangers that lurked in the unexplored wilderness. But not all Tengu were feared. In fact, some were even seen as protectors. The Tengu's close association with Shinto shrines and sacred spaces suggests that in certain places, they were revered as powerful spiritual entities. Their role as guardians of these sacred sites is still reflected in some modern practices, where the Tengu is regarded as a protector of mountain shrines and pilgrimage routes. This duality, at once feared and revered, reflects the Tengu's complexity in Japanese mythology. As we trace the evolution of the Tengu's identity, we cannot ignore their tangible influence on Japan's cultural landscape. Over time, they became symbols of strength, discipline, and even warrior spirit, blending into the art, literature, and performing arts of Japan. In many ways, the Tengu are more than just supernatural beings. They are metaphors for the complex relationship between humans and the natural world. They are the mysteries of the mountains, the untamed, wild forces that both protect and challenge those who venture into their domain. Yet even today, the true nature of the Tengu remains elusive. While there are countless stories about encounters with these supernatural creatures, and their imagery continues to play a role in modern Japanese culture, questions linger. Were the Tengu always supernatural beings, or were they once human? Do they still exist in some form, hidden away in the mist-shrouded mountains? Or is their power merely a symbol of an ancient connection to nature? The mystery of the Tengu and their ultimate origin remains unresolved, as much a part of Japan's living folklore as it is a puzzle yet to be fully understood. What might we still uncover about these enigmatic beings? Could the key to understanding the Tengu lie in the untold stories of those who lived long ago? Or is the truth buried deep within the mountain mists, waiting for someone to look once more? Hoshikuso Pass, a trail of obsidian tools. High in the misty mountains of Japan, nestled amidst towering peaks and hidden deep within a mist-covered valley, lies the enigmatic Hoshikuso Pass. The rugged terrain, framed by dense forests and steep cliffs, has long been a place of mystery and intrigue. Known for its eerie silence and isolation, the pass has seen little human activity for centuries. But beneath its natural beauty and haunting stillness, a secret has been waiting to be uncovered, a mystery that has perplexed archaeologists and historians alike. In the late 20th century, something remarkable was discovered at the Hoshikuso Pass, a collection of obsidian tools, meticulously crafted, yet seemingly out of place in the surrounding landscape. These sharp-edged implements, made from volcanic glass, bear a striking resemblance to tools used by ancient peoples, though their origins are far more ambiguous. Obsidian, prized for its cutting ability and used by cultures around the world, is not uncommon in the Japanese archipelago. But the discovery at Hoshikuso Pass raises more questions than answers. The site itself is unsettling. The tools were found scattered across the pass, not in a single organized layer or burial site, but seemingly abandoned in the open. Some were deeply embedded within the earth, others half exposed, as though deliberately placed or left in haste. The craftsmanship of the obsidian tools with their sharp edges and finely honed points suggests a level of sophistication and purpose. Yet their sudden and mysterious appearance in this remote location suggests a story lost to time. How did these tools end up here, far from the known settlements of early Japanese cultures? Why was this isolated past the site of their deposition? And who were the people who left them behind? One theory, grounded in mainstream archaeology, suggests that the obsidian tools were part of a prehistoric trade network. Obsidian was highly valued by ancient societies across Japan and beyond, and Hoshikuso Pass, due to its geographic location, may have served as a key passageway through the mountains. It's conceivable that travelers or traders moving between distant regions might have lost or discarded these tools along the way. The distribution of obsidian, often originating from specific volcanic sources, could also suggest that these tools were crafted elsewhere and transported through the pass. Yet even if this theory holds true, it doesn't explain the peculiar manner in which the tools were left behind, scattered rather than carefully stored or buried. The more speculative theories offer a far more intriguing perspective on the mystery of Hoshikuso Pass. Some have suggested that the site may have once been a place of ritual significance, a sacred location for an ancient, now forgotten culture. Could the obsidian tools be remnants of a ceremonial practice, perhaps used in rituals or sacrifices? The sharpness of the tools, combined with their strategic placement around the pass, could imply that they held a deeper symbolic meaning beyond their utilitarian purpose. Adding weight to this theory is the geographical positioning of the pass itself. Hoshikuso, meaning starry cluster, hints at celestial associations, suggesting that the location might have been tied to astronomical practices or star worship. In many cultures around the world, obsidian was not only valued for its sharpness, but also its symbolic qualities. It was often seen as a medium that connected the earth to the spiritual realm, capable of channeling forces beyond the physical world. Did the ancient people who passed through Hoshikuso Pass believe in such properties? Was this place, with its eerie stillness and hidden location, a site where they could commune with the heavens, using the obsidian tools as instruments of connection? Other, more fringe theories propose that the obsidian tools at Hoshikuso Pass may be tied to the mythological and mysterious history of the Japanese archipelago. Some have drawn connections to ancient civilizations that might have existed in Japan long before the commonly accepted historical timeline. Could the tools be remnants of a civilization lost to time, one that predated the known Jomon or Yayoi periods? The suggestion that advanced societies could have once existed in ancient Japan, only to be wiped away by catastrophe or internal decline, has long been a subject of speculation. If the obsidian tools found at Hoshikuso Pass are indeed the product of such a lost civilization, then the questions grow even more profound. Who were these people? And what became of them? Why did they leave behind such sophisticated yet cryptic artifacts? There are also more puzzling aspects of the discovery that remain unexplained. For instance, while the obsidian tools appear to be finely crafted, they do not align perfectly with the known styles of tool-making seen in other ancient Japanese cultures. The shapes, sizes, and methods of crafting these tools differ from those traditionally associated with the Jomon or Yayoi people, the primary cultures of ancient Japan. This incongruity only deepens the mystery. If the tools were made by the people of those periods, why do they differ so significantly from other examples? Or could they be the work of an entirely different people whose history has been lost to the passage of time? And then there is the question of the obsidian itself. While it's true that obsidian is found in volcanic regions across Japan, the specific types of obsidian found at Hoshikuso Pass don't seem to originate from local sources. They appear to have been brought from distant regions, further fueling the idea that the tools may have been part of an ancient trade route. But if this is the case, why leave them behind so suddenly? Why abandon such valuable objects in such a remote and isolated location? Were they lost in transit? Or was there a deeper, more ritualistic reason for their deposition? As with many mysteries of this nature, the true answers to these questions may never be fully uncovered. The tools at Hoshikuso Pass, whether remnants of a forgotten culture, discarded trade goods, or instruments of ancient ritual, remain an enduring enigma. What were they doing there, in this isolated pass? And what do they tell us about the people who left them behind? Perhaps in time, the excavation of more sites like Hoshikuso Pass will reveal deeper clues, or perhaps this mystery will remain locked in the past, a puzzle forever beyond our grasp. What lies hidden beneath the mountain mists, waiting to be discovered, is a question that still lingers, as elusive as the obsidian gleam that once shone in the shadowed pass. Ancient stone chambers, cryptic structures, high in the mist-covered hills of Japan, in the quiet towns of Takayama and Iwasuki, there exists a collection of ancient stone chambers that have long piqued the curiosity of archaeologists, historians, and explorers alike. These mysterious structures, carefully constructed from large stones and hidden away from the prying eyes of time, seem to hold more questions than answers. As the modern world encroaches on these quiet corners of the Japanese countryside, the stone chambers remain shrouded in mystery, whispering stories of a forgotten past. The chambers, many of which are carved directly into the rock or built from massive stone blocks, are scattered across these two regions. To the casual observer, they might appear as simple remnants of ancient habitation, shelters perhaps, or simple tombs. But a closer look reveals something more enigmatic. The stone chambers are not easily categorized into the known traditions of early Japanese architecture. Their designs, their placement within the landscape, and the materials used to construct them suggest that these structures were something unique, even for ancient Japan. The chambers themselves vary in size and shape, but there is a distinct similarity in their construction. They are often found deep within caves or nestled in the hillsides, sometimes obscured by dense vegetation, almost as if they were intentionally hidden from view. The walls of these chambers are meticulously carved, some featuring intricate grooves and designs that suggest deliberate artistry. In certain chambers, the floors are polished to a smooth, almost unnatural finish. Mysterious carvings, some resembling astronomical symbols, others appearing more abstract, adorn the walls, their meanings lost to time. Yet it is not just the craftsmanship that raises questions. The chamber's location adds to their intrigue. Why were they built in such remote, seemingly inaccessible areas? What purpose did they serve? And who were the people that created them? While mainstream archaeology often categorizes these structures as tombs or ceremonial spaces linked to the ancient Jomon or Yayoi cultures, their exact function and the identity of their creators remain unclear. The lack of similar structures elsewhere in Japan makes these chambers even more perplexing. Some researchers suggest that these ancient stone chambers were created by early ritualistic communities, possibly serving as places for ceremonial rites or as astronomical observatories. The precise alignment of the chambers with the positions of certain stars and celestial bodies suggests that the builders may have been keenly aware of the movements of the heavens. Could these chambers have been used in sky-watching rituals? Or were they places where ancient priests and shamans communed with the stars? The placement of the chambers also suggests a spiritual connection to the land. Positioned on hillsides or within caves, they could have been designed to bring those inside closer to the heavens, with the surrounding landscape playing a role in the ritualistic or spiritual practices of their creators. Perhaps these were not just physical shelters, but places where the boundaries between the earth and the divine were blurred. However, as we move beyond the realm of accepted archaeological theory, more speculative ideas emerge. Some suggest that the chambers might have been connected to a lost civilization, one that existed in Japan long before the arrival of the Jomon people. Could these stone chambers be the remnants of an ancient culture that predates even the oldest known settlements in Japan? The skill and precision of the stonework seem to suggest a knowledge and expertise that could indicate a society with a deeper understanding of construction and cosmology than what is typically attributed to the early inhabitants of Japan. Some have even speculated that these chambers could be remnants of an advanced pre-Jomon culture whose existence has been erased from history, leaving only these cryptic monuments behind. Others have linked the chambers to mythological themes, with some theorists positing that the chambers are directly tied to ancient legends of the Kojiki and Nihon Shoki, Japan's oldest chronicles. In these texts, gods and spirits frequently interact with humans through sacred spaces. Could these stone chambers have been created as places where mortals attempted to make contact with the divine? Some have pointed to the chamber's distinctive architecture as evidence of an otherworldly influence, claiming that the intricate design and alignment of the chambers may not have been the work of humans at all, but rather a divine plan or the handiwork of celestial beings. Among the most compelling theories is the suggestion that the stone chambers may have been designed as tombs for kings or high priests, individuals of great power whose importance extended beyond mere mortals. Could these chambers have been the final resting places of ancient rulers whose graves were hidden away to preserve their sacred legacy? The lack of clear burial goods or human remains within the chambers adds to the intrigue. Were these tombs, or were they something else entirely? Perhaps ceremonial structures where the dead were honored in a manner unlike any other burial custom known? As we try to piece together the history of these chambers, we are left with more questions than answers. What was the true purpose of these stone structures? And who were the people who created them? Were they a part of the Jomon or Yayoi cultures? Or do they represent something older and more mysterious? Could they be the last remnants of a long-lost civilization? Or were they built by an entirely different group of people whose identity has been lost to time? Japan's hidden Christians, relics of secret faith. Beneath the surface of Japan's rich cultural and religious history lies a tale of secrecy and survival, one of hidden faith and underground relics that survived centuries of persecution. This is the story of Japan's hidden Christians, a group whose existence was almost erased from history. Their legacy, however, remains preserved in relics, secret churches, and a silent resistance to the overwhelming pressure of religious suppression. The story begins in the 16th century when Christianity first arrived in Japan through Portuguese missionaries such as Francis Xavier, who introduced the teachings of Christ to a receptive population. At its height, the faith found significant followings, particularly in the southern islands of Kyushu. Christian communities flourished, and by 1587 it was estimated that over 300,000 Japanese had converted to Christianity. However, this newfound faith did not sit well with Japan's rulers. In the early 17th century, with the rise of the Tokugawa shogunate, Japan turned inward. Fearing foreign influence and religious upheaval, the shogunate launched a campaign to suppress Christianity, culminating in the banishment and persecution of Christians. By 1639, Japan had become a closed nation, and the practice of Christianity was made punishable by death. Those who continued to follow the faith were forced to either renounce their beliefs or go into hiding. It is here that the history of Japan's hidden Christians begins. For more than 2 centuries, these individuals practiced their faith in secret, creating a clandestine network of underground churches, hidden shrines, and sacred relics that were protected from the prying eyes of the authorities. In remote villages, members of these communities found ways to preserve the Christian faith, often blending it with local Shinto and Buddhist practices to avoid detection. Some historians have suggested that this blending of traditions may have led to the development of unique forms of Christian iconography and religious practices that were unrecognizable to outsiders. One of the most intriguing aspects of this hidden faith is the relics that remain scattered across Japan, objects that survived in the shadows, preserved in secrecy. These relics, many of them ordinary items that were subtly altered to reflect Christian iconography, provide a glimpse into the way Christianity took root and adapted in a society that had outlawed it. Among these relics are wooden crosses, rosaries, and statues of the Virgin Mary, often carved in ways that make them seem indistinct from the objects of Japan's native face. But it's the hidden churches and underground sites that have captured the imagination of researchers. In remote villages and on isolated islands, small stone churches, some no more than humble shrines, have been discovered. The Ora Church in Nagasaki, for instance, is often cited as one of the first places where hidden Christians gathered, and it still stands today as a testament to the persistence of faith in the face of oppression. These churches, often built with materials that made them blend into their natural surroundings, provided a haven for those who dared to worship in secret. Beyond the relics in the churches, there is the story of the Kakure Kirishitan, the hidden Christians. For centuries, these secret believers kept their faith alive, even as Japan moved further away from foreign influence in European religious practices. But who were these people? What drove them to keep their beliefs alive when the very act of doing so was punishable by death? Many of these hidden Christians came from areas of Japan that were isolated or difficult to reach. In regions like Amakusa and Hirado, located in the southernmost reaches of Kyushu, Christians would often retreat into the mountains or build secret shrines near sacred hot springs or caves. There they would continue to worship in secret, passing down their faith through generations without any outside influence. But it wasn't only the remote locations that helped these communities survive. The symbolism embedded in their practice was designed to deceive. Crosses and crucifixes were often hidden in plain sight, disguised as Shinto symbols or even Buddhist iconography, so that they would go unnoticed by authorities. Some Christian relics, like the manji, an ancient symbol resembling the swastika, were cleverly incorporated into their religious iconography, both as a symbol of their faith and a covert sign of resistance. The survival of Christianity in Japan during this period is often attributed to the family. Because the faith was passed down in secrecy from generation to generation, Christianity became a tradition hidden within the walls of homes, where parents would quietly pass on prayers, rituals, and hymns. For many generations, the Japanese who followed the faith could only call themselves Kirishitan, a term that meant Christian, but could no longer be openly used. In more recent times, archaeological discoveries have shed light on some of the hidden practices and sites of these communities. On Ikitsuki Island, the remains of a hidden Christian sanctuary were uncovered, complete with a stone cross carved into the hillside. The presence of such religious artifacts in these remote places raises questions about how deeply Christianity was embedded in the lives of these secret communities. Could there be even more hidden relics still waiting to be discovered in the remote corners of Japan? As we look deeper into this period of hidden faith, it is impossible not to ask what other secret practices were passed down in these isolated communities. How much of the Kirishitan tradition was absorbed into Japan's indigenous belief systems? And what traces of Christianity can still be found today, disguised and intertwined with Shinto or Buddhist practices? Despite the end of official persecution and the eventual recognition of Christianity in Japan, much of the history of Japan's hidden Christians remains obscured. The sites and relics that have been uncovered are often just the tip of the iceberg. Many remain buried, tucked away in forgotten villages, waiting for the right eyes to uncover them. The mystery of these underground relics and the hidden communities that once thrived in secrecy continues to fascinate scholars and history enthusiasts alike. What more might still lie hidden, both in the ground and within the collective memory of the Japanese people? Are there other sacred sites and relics waiting to be found? Or is this history forever lost to time and the silence of hidden devotion? These questions remain unanswered, leaving us to wonder just how much of Japan's religious past remains cloaked in secrecy, waiting to be revealed. The Oni and Cursed Mountains, demonic forces of nature. High in the misty mountains of Japan, the air is thick with mystery, and the echoes of ancient legends seem to whisper through the trees. The jagged peaks of mountains like Hakone, Fuji, and the ranges of Ibaraki stand as silent sentinels to stories that have been passed down through generations. Among these tales are those of the Oni, the fierce, demon-like beings that have haunted Japan's folklore for centuries. Their terrifying presence is not merely confined to the realm of myth. In fact, many believe that their spirits still linger in the cursed mountains where strange events and eerie occurrences continue to this day. The Oni are often depicted as towering creatures with horned heads, sharp claws, and glowing red eyes, clad in tiger skin loincloths and carrying massive clubs. These beings have long been associated with evil and destruction, yet they are also sometimes portrayed as protectors or guardians, depending on the region and the specific legend. What is it about these fearsome figures that has captured the imagination of generations of Japanese people? What truths lie behind the centuries-old tales of Oni who inhabit mountains that are said to be cursed? Let us begin in the remote mountain ranges of Okinawa, home to some of Japan's most ancient Oni legends. Here in the shadow of the imposing Yonaguni Monument, stories abound of Oni dwelling in deep caves, their presence marked by the faint rumblings of the earth and the whisper of wind through narrow mountain passes. These mountains, particularly the ones near the sacred forests, are steeped in an eerie energy. Even today, locals speak of strange shadows that flit between the trees and rocks, phantom figures that have been seen by travelers and those who venture too close to the craggy ridges. Are these simply remnants of ancient superstition? Or is there something deeper at work in these mountains? Many believe that the Oni's curse is tied to the sacred ground of these highlands. The mountains, with their sharp cliffs and mist-covered valleys, have long been seen as places where the human realm meets the supernatural. It is no coincidence that many Oni legends have emerged from areas considered spiritually powerful or fraught with danger. In Japan, sacred mountains are often sites of pilgrimage, but they also carry the weight of ancient curses, places where those who violate sacred rules face untold consequences. The Oni are said to haunt these mountains, punishing anyone who dares to tread on forbidden ground. In some legends, these creatures are vengeful spirits of ancient warriors who were betrayed or slain, cursed to guard their resting places for all eternity. In others, they are the manifestations of the mountain's unseen forces, the very spirit of the land itself, which holds grudges against those who seek to exploit or desecrate it. One of the most famous of these cursed mountains is Mount Fuji, Japan's iconic peak, which, while revered as a spiritual center by many, has also been the subject of unsettling stories and eerie legends. For centuries, Fuji has been surrounded by myths about its malevolent spirit. Some suggest that it was once home to the Oni, who ruled over the land from its summit. According to local folklore, the mountain is cursed to this day, and anyone who seeks to climb it after dark may risk encountering the spirits of the Oni, or worse, awakening an ancient destructive force that slumbers beneath its slopes. In particular, the Aokigahara Forest, nestled at the base of Mount Fuji, has become notorious as a site of death and despair, adding to the aura of mystery surrounding the mountain. Known to some as the Suicide Forest, it has been the focus of numerous tragic events, with people venturing into its dense woods to end their lives. But is there more to Aokigahara's dark reputation than mere coincidence? Could it be that this place, long associated with death and the supernatural, holds an even darker secret tied to the Oni? There are some who believe that the mountain's mysterious energy draws those with troubled souls, channeling their despair and pulling them into its depths, where they are lost to the world. It is said that Oni spirits bound to the cursed lands feed off this negative energy, growing stronger as the forest claims its victims. While this is often dismissed as superstition, the chilling stories and unexplained disappearances that have plagued the forest for years suggest that there may be more to these legends than is widely believed. Then there are the Oni caves scattered throughout the mountains of Ibaraki Prefecture and Chugoku. These caves, which are said to be the lairs of the Oni, have attracted countless explorers and paranormal enthusiasts hoping to catch a glimpse of something extraordinary. Many of these caves, particularly those found in the Mount Tsukuba area, are difficult to access, narrow, shadowed tunnels that seem to lead into the heart of the earth. Some of these explorers claim to have heard strange noises emanating from deep within the caves, gruff, guttural growls that echo eerily in the silence. Others speak of having felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as though something or someone was watching them from the darkness. In one notable case, a group of archaeologists exploring a cave near Mount Sangane discovered a series of ancient carvings that depicted Oni-like figures. These carvings, dating back over 1,000 years, are among the few remaining clues to the Oni's role in early Japanese culture. The figures engraved into the cave walls show creatures with sharp horns and fangs, clutching weapons and surrounded by symbols of power. This discovery has led some to theorize that the Oni may have once been more than just mythical beings. They could have been the embodiment of natural forces or even ancient tribal warriors. But as with many of Japan's most enduring legends, the true nature of the Oni remains elusive. Were these creatures merely the products of a superstitious past? Or could they represent something deeper, an ancient truth buried beneath the layers of time? What if the mountains themselves, with their vast hidden caverns and remote peaks, continue to guard secrets that are not meant to be uncovered? The mystery of the Oni and the cursed mountains of Japan invites us to look deeper into the land's history and folklore. What forces might still haunt these places, lingering in the shadows of the ancient rocks? Could the Oni be more than just stories? Perhaps the lingering spirits of a time long past, waiting for the right moment to be unearthed again. As with many ancient mysteries, we may never truly know. But as long as the mountains stand, their secrets remain locked away, waiting for those brave enough to seek them out. No Parabo, the chilling faceless ghosts. In the stillness of the night, beneath the eerie glow of the moon, Japan's rural landscape comes alive with whispers of a strange and unsettling presence. These whispers speak of no Parabo, or faceless ghosts, spirits whose featureless faces evoke an almost primal sense of fear and confusion. Unlike the typical spirits of folklore, which are often imagined with grotesque or hauntingly familiar faces, the no Parabo is unsettling because of what is missing. The face itself, a blank, smooth surface where eyes, nose, and mouth should be, leaving only an empty visage to stare back at the living. The stories of these faceless apparitions have lingered in Japanese folklore for centuries, and they are more than just tales told to frighten children on cold nights. They are part of the broader spectrum of yurei, the restless spirits of the dead who have unfinished business in the world of the living. Yet the no Parabo remains one of the most mysterious and unnerving manifestations of the supernatural in Japan's rich history of ghostly legends. It is said that the no Parabo usually appear in rural or isolated areas, along quiet, desolate roads, or near abandoned buildings, where the night sky wraps the land in an oppressive silence. Travelers, typically alone, report encountering a person along their journey, a figure whose appearance at first seems normal, but as the conversation unfolds or as the figure draws closer, something is off. The face, the most defining feature of any living being, has simply disappeared. In its place is a smooth, empty surface, as if the person has never had a face at all. One of the most famous tales of the no Parabo comes from the early Edo period. A traveler walking alone in the dead of night is approached by a woman who seems in distress. She seeks help for a problem. But when the traveler draws near, he notices that her face is featureless. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. The horror lies not just in the appearance of the ghost, but in the unspeakable emptiness that her face embodies. The traveler, stricken with fear, turns to run, but when he looks back, the woman is gone. The darkness closes in around him, and the unsettling silence that follows feels as though it is suffocating the very air. Why are these spirits faceless? What is it about their blank, empty faces that inspires such profound fear? The most straightforward explanation suggests that these are merely ghosts, or yurei, spirits of those who have died tragically or violently, unable to pass into the afterlife. The absence of their faces could symbolize a loss of identity, a personal void created by some tragic event, perhaps a murder or an unresolved emotional torment. The absence of the face is not just a physical void. It may represent a deeper spiritual emptiness, a disconnection between the world of the living and the dead. Yet some believe that the no Parabo are not mere spirits at all, but beings from another realm, entities whose appearances defy the natural order of life and death. There is speculation that these beings are not ghosts at all, but are tied to Japan's mysterious Yamabushi, the mountain ascetics who once wandered the sacred mountains of Japan. These ascetics, known for their strange rituals and connection to the natural and supernatural worlds, often encountered spirits and deities during their pilgrimages. Some believe that the no Parabo are manifestations of these very deities, spirits whose appearance is meant to unsettle, to test the boundaries of the living world. The facelessness could be a sign of their otherworldly nature, beyond human comprehension or understanding. In addition to their spiritual implications, no Parabo also play a significant role in the cultural fabric of Japan. They are often used as symbols of identity loss, of the invisibility of certain people or emotions, and the fear of the unknown. For centuries, the Japanese have grappled with concepts of the self, often in relation to death and the afterlife. A face in this sense represents more than just a physical feature. It is a mask of the self, a window into one's soul and identity. The no Parabo's facelessness therefore represents not only the disfigurement of the body, but the obliteration of the self itself. There are also theories that attempt to connect the Noperabo to other similar entities in global folklore. Faceless spirits are not unique to Japan, and in other cultures, similar beings have been described. Could these shared experiences indicate a universal human fear of something unseen? After all, it is often the unknown that frightens us the most. If the Noperabo are seen as representations of human fragility, then their lack of a face becomes even more symbolic. Without a face, how can we understand them? And more importantly, without a face, how do we understand ourselves? In modern times, sightings of the Noperabo remain rare, but they continue to persist in urban legends and in stories passed down by those who claim to have had encounters with the faceless ghosts. Some even report seeing Noperabo in more urbanized settings, on empty subway platforms or wandering lonely alleyways. Though these more recent encounters often blur the lines between superstition and psychological phenomenon. Could it be that the fear of the faceless reflects more than just the presence of spirits in the world, but also speaks to our collective anxieties? The fear of being forgotten, of being faceless in a modern, disconnected society? It's hard to say what exactly the Noperabo represent, whether they are spirits of the dead, manifestations of ancient deities, or something else entirely. Perhaps the mystery lies in the nature of the encounter itself, the shudder of recognition when confronted with a figure that is somehow wrong and yet so eerily familiar. What is it that makes us so unsettled by the absence of a face? As we delve deeper into these ancient mysteries, one must wonder, what is the significance of these ghosts and their faceless forms? Are they merely a chilling symbol of lost souls, or do they represent something even darker and more incomprehensible? Something that transcends the limits of human understanding? The Noperabo remains an enigma, a supernatural force that haunts Japan's history, and perhaps it will continue to provoke questions for generations to come.